Chapter 1469. Earthly Sovereign, a peerless powerhouse. Today he chose to self-destruct. The roar shook the three realms. At this moment, the land of origin was shaking violently. Curses, screams, roars, these voices could not suppress Earthly Sovereign's laughter. Free. He had been freed from the land of origin many years ago, but this three realms, the entire three realms, was a big cage. Seed was in the game. Celestial Emperor and Sky were cooperating with the game. They became the NPCs in the game. As the Earthly Sovereign who had traveled the three realms for many years, he knew everything. He couldn't accept it, and he wasn't willing. 10,000 years ago, he was already unwilling. Unfortunately, 10,000 years ago, he had no hope of breaking everything. He wanted John to cooperate with him and do something big together, but John refused. John even asked him to repair the land of origin. Earthly Sovereign almost spat him to death. He would only agree if he was sick. John said that someone would solve all problems in the future. Earthly Sovereign snorted, pinning his hopes on others. He must be stupid. He only believed in himself and his brothers. He did not believe in the future. He did not believe in the guy who would break the game in the future. More than 8,000 years after John's death, he saw Fong Ping that day. It was not the first time he met the divine sect. The first time he saw Fong Ping was in the land of imperial battle. That arrogant guy, rank, 8 strength, in front of a large group of true gods, swaggering and arrogant, very much like himself. He seemed to see himself in the past, as if he saw himself when he was young. Some people said that he looked like Tengu. That day, Taoist Feng Yun looked at him again and again, but he snorted. This guy looked like Tengu? Tengu was a fool, but this guy was not. That time, he saw Fong Ping, got to know Fong Ping, and even sensed some of the three emperors' strength. He was not sure because it was not his real body that went that day. He was really sure when he was in the divine sect. That day, he was sure that this person was John's backup. This person was what John said, the guy who would settle everything in the future and break the game. So weak? Maybe. The more he looked, the more he admired him. What an interesting little guy. At that time, Fong Ping compared to the divine sect was like the difference between an ant and an elephant. What was the result? In the end, the divine sect was destroyed. From then on, he paid more and more attention to this fellow and felt more and more that perhaps there really was hope. He was more decisive than John, more murderous. Perhaps he did not have Jean's demeanor, did not have Jean's shock, but Fong Ping was too much like him, except he had more hope. He gave up on his own plan and began to cooperate with Jean's plan. Step by step, he forced Fong Ping to move forward. You're not leaving? He had to leave. The sages and heavenly kings have all been revived. Are you leaving or not? If you don't leave, I'll exterminate your human race and kill your friends and family. Do you want to break out of this situation? The new heavenly court was forcing Fong Ping to become stronger. The divine sect was forcing Fong Ping to become stronger. Everyone was forcing him to become stronger. If he did not become stronger, he would die. He would not be the only one who would die. When the wind cloud list was released, many experts were listed on it. All of them had a combat power of over 100 million. Were they afraid? If he was afraid, then he had to continue to grow stronger. The immortal source controls the great Tao. The fate of the human race lies within this tiny immortal source. Do you want to break it? If he wanted to break it, he had to be strong. As expected, Fong Ping was getting stronger and stronger. He was so strong that he was pleasantly surprised. He saw hope and the continuation of his plan. Since the three realms was a cage, then he would break this cage. The Celestial Emperor and the others wanted to break the cage of the source land or stabilize the cage of the source land. He did not think so. He looked down on them from the bottom of his heart. He looked down on the celestial emperor, the divine emperor, and even the sun god. That fellow, did he enjoy staying in the cage of the three realms? Of course, there was also some envy in his contempt. The sun god was very strong, terrifyingly strong. That fellow could live freely in this cage, but he could not. He was not that strong. The divine emperor and the others had a chance to kill him. Therefore, he wanted to break this cage and change the three realms completely. An earth-shattering change. Today, the world changed. Three emperors entered Fang Ping's source. The earthly sovereign self-destructed, and the fourth emperor died. The earthly sovereign's Tao fruit was not broken, but the 22nd heaven was locked. Even if the earthly sovereign did not die, he could forget about reviving. As for Hong Yu and the other two, they were still burning themselves and their Tao fruit. Fang Ping opened up the source world. These people could see the earth-shattering movement of the earthly sovereign's self-destruction. The three of them had already become a torch. At this moment, the three of them were looking over there, listening to the earthly sovereign's laughter. Hong Kuan chuckled, Hong Yu sighed, and Li Zhu scolded with a smile. Old thing. Indescribable indifference. Indescribable elegance. The word old thing did not sound the slightest bit of complaint. That irresponsible father, that bastard who forced them to prove their Tao, who forced them to die, who used them as pawns. But that old bastard had told them a long time ago that they would all die. Their family would die together. No, not die. They would go to the next world and dominate it. They would be the boss, not the little brother. Hong Yu, heavenly sovereign. Li Zhu, earthly sovereign. Hong Kuan, demon emperor. The old fellow scolded them, saying that they had one less. Otherwise, the human emperor would also be their family. And he wanted to be the Tao ancestor. In the new world, his Hong family was the boss. No one could cause trouble. Today, the old fellow succeeded. He left and was going to the next world to be the boss. 10,000 years of scheming, 10,000 years of forbearance. All of it was vented today. Li Zhu had been burned until only an illusion was left. At this moment, a smile appeared on his face. He had never called anyone father before. At this moment, his smile was no longer gentle. It was hearty and bright. Father, slow down. With a laugh, Li Zhu's figure disappeared completely. With a rumble, the Tao fruit shattered, turning into raindrops, falling into the source world. Rumble! In the source world, the mainland expanded. Cities in the catacombs appeared one after another, uninhabited cities. Li Zhu's illusion dissipated completely, dead and gone. Today, the emperor of the catacombs, Li Zhu, had fallen. You left so quickly, Hong Kuan scolded with a smile. He tilted his head to look at Fang Ping and scolded, Bastard, you've made me angry many times. I've wanted to kill you for a long time. If it were not for the old thing persuading me, I would have killed you long ago. Today, the grudge between us ends here. Rumble! Another loud noise. The source world shook. The mainland expanded again. Not only did it expand, but at this moment, a huge tree appeared in the source world. It began to prop up the world, shaped like celestial wood. Celestial wood. Hong Yu did not say anything else. He looked back at the green cat reluctantly, but it was not the cat that he was looking at. Very quickly, he turned his head and looked at the source of the explosion that was still going on. He smiled, looking extremely cool. With a wave of his hand, he disappeared between heaven and earth. Boom. Today, the source world seemed to have gone crazy. It expanded and consolidated again and again. Between heaven and earth, some trees and animals even appeared. Those illusions seemed to be more and more realistic at this moment. In this world, There were mountains, water, trees, people, life, and everything else. The source was shaking even more violently. The three emperors had completed Fong Ping's source, but they did not repair it. Triple heaven and earth was collapsing, including the beast emperors, north emperors, and south emperors. At this moment, the source was shaking so hard that even the emperors could not stand steadily. Cracks densely covered the entire world, as if the source was going to be torn apart. Fong Ping, on the other hand, was extremely calm. Even at this moment, he did not seal the source world. Instead, he was rapidly absorbing the energy that was snatching from the source world. The opening was madly absorbing the source world's energy. Heaven and earth collapsed, layer by layer. Gigantic cracks appeared again and again. Fong Ping was fearless. In his hand, a small sword appeared. In the past, the small sword that he seized in the mystic realm. Obviously, the earthly emperor might have been prepared and handed this thing to him that day. However, he chose to do it in the mystic realm, perhaps to avoid the powerhouse's detection. Was there anyone who could save the emperor? His own source world still lacked humanity. Fong Ping was clear about this. His own source world was not perfect yet. Although the emperor did not cultivate the authentic emperor path, it was similar to Li Zhu's path. It was still very helpful for perfecting the source world. Fong Ping was too lazy to care about the emperor's good or bad. He was too lazy to care about his schemes. Were there good people in the three realms? Were there bad people? Today, it was already impossible to distinguish good people and bad people. It was impossible to distinguish between different standpoints. Were the earthly emperor and the others good people? No. Because of them, the humans in the three realms and the catacombs had probably died hundreds of millions. How could these people be considered good people? Were they considered bad people? They only wanted to break out of this cage and live a little more freely. Even if they died, they did not want to be prisoners. At this moment, Fong Ping could not distinguish, and he did not want to distinguish. If he wanted to break out of this situation, then he had to make the source world stronger. The emperor could satisfy him. Otherwise, he could only let old Zhang try. This was what Fong Ping was unwilling to do. I only protect what I approve of. Fong Ping no longer talked about righteousness or the human race. He only wanted to protect what he wanted to protect, such as old Zhang, but not the emperor. The screams did not stop. The earthly emperor was too strong. If he self-destructed, the emperor might have been killed if Dong Huang did not share some of the pressure. However, the earthly emperor was mainly targeting the emperor. Dong Huang was not the main target. At this moment, Dong Huang retreated quickly. Although he had restrained some of the power, there were still countless energy explosions, and the emperor was in an extremely miserable state. He felt like he was dying. Seed, Celestial Emperor, save me! The emperor roared. It was not strange for him to call Seed or Celestial Emperor, but to call him Celestial Emperor. Obviously, he knew something, or he had been involved all along, taking on an important role. Do you want the source ground to collapse completely? At this moment, someone shouted angrily. The previous indifference disappeared with anger. 36 levels of heaven, the Emperor of Heaven Reverse, and the Emperor of God looked at each other and smiled. They said nothing, but a crack appeared in the 36 levels of heaven. Humph! Mixed with anger, a pair of hands went through the crack in the 36 levels of heaven and directly reached for the emperor. This time, it was not a projection, but a real hand. The projection could not handle the power of the earthly emperor's self-destruction. If the power was transmitted, even the Emperor of Heaven Reverse would be blasted to death. The hand was getting bigger and faster. It passed through layers of heaven and reached for the Emperor of Heaven Reverse. At this moment, Fong Ping also saw everything clearly. The earthly emperor's self-destruction had collapsed more than one level of heaven. From here to the Emperor of Heaven Reverse, there were West Emperor's 8th level of heaven and Spirit Emperor's 11th level of heaven. Except for these 2 levels of heaven that were still intact, the other places had almost collapsed. There were countless cracks. At this moment, the Emperor of Heaven Reverse was still struggling in a mass of intense energy. Cracks began to wrap around the Emperor of Heaven Reverse, trying to swallow him up. Next to Fang Ping, the heaven-subduing king, and the others looked at Fang Ping, surprised and at a loss. This time, it was really beyond their expectations. Fang Ping, on the other hand, did not have time to think about that. He quickly transmitted his voice. "Cat, old Ghost Jin, quickly snatch the Emperor's Tao fruit. We'll leave together later." "Leave? Emperor's Tao fruit?" The man and the cat were a little surprised. The Celestial Emperor had made a move. How could they snatch the Tao fruit? How could they leave? However, since Fang Ping said so, they did not say anything else. They quickly flew over there and prepared to take action. Fang Ping, on the other hand, glanced at the others. At this moment, the Heavenly Hound and the Book Fragrance were still unable to escape. The God Creation Envoy had previously used the Beast Emperor's Tao fruit to repair his cracks. Unless the origin was completely destroyed, he could leave now, just like the West Emperor. Of course, if someone destroyed his origin, he would have to return to continue suppressing it. Unless he left via the 3 Emperors' Tao. Fang Ping's eyes moved slightly. Then he would leave via the 3 Emperors' Tao. Senior Book Fragrance, Heavenly Hound. Fang Ping could not help the 2 of them escape at this time. The emperors had all been killed. On the Emperor's side, the earthly emperor had left it for the heaven-subduing king to repair the cracks left after the Tao fruit left, in case the heaven-subduing king could not escape. The heaven-subduing king's departure was more significant than the 2 leaving. Fang Ping said quickly, "The 2 of you can't leave now. Gather the dragon transformation as soon as possible, now that the emperors have suffered heavy casualties. Even if the God Emperor and the others want to make a move, the Celestial Emperor will not kill anymore." The Book Fragrance nodded slightly. The Heavenly Hound was a little depressed, but he did not say anything. As for Fang Ping, he quickly put away the brain nucleus and flew toward the Emperor. Old Zhang and the God Creation Envoy also quickly followed. At this time, the huge palm had already rushed into the energy ball. Rumble! Even the Celestial Emperor's palm, facing the power of the earthly emperor's self-destruction, was blown into pieces of flesh and blood. After all, it was only a hand, and not all of the Celestial Emperor had descended. The Celestial Emperor did not dare to descend rashly. Do He-cheon was still waiting for him. To save the Emperor, this hand was enough. Together with the Emperor himself, he could escape. The earthly Emperor said that someone wanted to save the Emperor. Obviously, he was talking about the Celestial Emperor. Kill! Fang Ping did not waste any more time and slashed over there. He was worried that the killing move left behind by the earthly emperor was not powerful enough to break the Celestial Emperor's palm and kill the Emperor. In front, the heaven-subduing king also punched out. The martial king and the others attacked from a distance. Kill the Emperor. On the other side, the Emperor could no longer maintain the existence of his flesh and blood. A white jade skeleton appeared, wrapped in countless cracks and attacked by the energy of the earthly emperor's self-destruction. Seeing this, he roared, "Fang Ping, we are on the same side. The seed has to protect the human race from destruction. The Celestial Emperor has never thought of completely exterminating the human race." Fang Ping had already understood many things at this moment. He said coldly, "Yes, I have never thought of exterminating the human race, but I have thought of keeping the human race in captivity, keeping them in captivity again and again, harvesting them again and again, creating immortal sources again and again, repairing the source again and again. Isn't this your goal? Gee, you are probably the executor. You, the emperor, are too suitable to keep the human race in captivity. No, the emperor roared. That's not the case. Boom. Fong Ping's long saber had already arrived, and the saber light broke through the obstruction. At this moment, the big hand slapped over. With a bang, the saber light shattered, but there was also a bloody mark. The celestial emperor did not say anything at all and continued to grab the emperor in the energy cluster. Behind, the attacks of the heaven-subduing king, and the others arrived one after another. Rumble! The sound of explosions rang out incessantly. The celestial emperor's palm had withstood one attack after another, and it was already somewhat broken, but he did not care about this and continued to grab the emperor. Qin Feng Qing. At this moment, the emperor roared once again. On the other side, Qin Feng Qing's face was covered in dirt. Although the emperor of Earth's self-destruction did not target him, he was still quite injured at this moment, and he was still very far away. When he heard this, Qin Feng Qing looked up. Without thinking too much, Qin Feng Qing shouted, "You're finished! You actually cooperated with the celestial emperor. This is the seed's great enemy. You're finished. You've betrayed us. You're no longer a Dao protector clan. Seed, quickly kill the traitor." The emperor almost died of anger. At this point, he did not believe that Qin Feng Qing had not seen through it. The seed and the celestial emperor were not great enemies at all. But before he could speak, Qin Feng Qing broke into a run and shouted, "I'm going to report to the seed that you've betrayed us and sided with the celestial emperor. You traitor! The Dao protector clan will not let you off." The emperor was furious, but at this moment he was too lazy to care about him. At this moment, the celestial emperor's giant hand had shattered the cracks in the surroundings. At this moment, he was safe. The emperor of Earth had self-destructed, and his Dao fruit was sealed. It would not be so easy for Fong Ping and the others to kill him now. Moreover, the celestial emperor had appeared, and Fong Ping and the others still dared to chase after him. The celestial emperor would not sit back and watch. Just as the emperor was thinking, from the other side, over there, Fong Ping had quickly killed. Glancing coldly at the broken giant hand, Fong Ping snorted coldly and swung his saber in that direction. At this moment, the emperor of Earth had already broken through the surrounding blockade. He did not stay here and quickly retreated. Even if the celestial emperor's palm was seriously injured, it could still entangle Fong Ping and the others. He was extremely injured and almost died from the explosion. He did not want to stay here any longer. The emperor of Earth quickly retreated, preparing to leave this place of trouble. At this moment, the celestial emperor's palm turned into a middle-aged man who looked similar to Heavenly King Zhen. Previously, Fong Ping had even teased Heavenly King Zhen about whether he was the celestial emperor's son. The celestial emperor that the palm had turned into looked at Fong Ping and slightly frowned. Today, boom. Fong Ping would not listen to his nonsense and quickly attacked. Looking at the fleeing emperor, Fong Ping's eyes flickered. Suddenly, a small sword shot out from his hand and quickly flew toward the emperor. At first, the celestial emperor did not care. He was only transformed from the palm. Fong Ping's current combat strength was also extremely strong. It was not so easy to deal with him. He was somewhat suppressed. However, when he saw the jade sword being thrown out, the celestial emperor's expression suddenly changed slightly. That was, "Gee, get out of the way." The celestial emperor roared. The fleeing emperor in front turned his head and looked. When he saw the jade sword, his expression also changed. This is the annihilation sword. The emperor's expression changed completely. The emperors of the three realms each had their own unique skills. Emperor Nan's Vitality Restoration Technique, the Emperor's Vitality Qualitative Change Technique, the Emperor North's Golden Body Technique. As for the Emperor of Earth, his physical body was not weak, his vitality was very strong, and his mentality was not bad either, but what he was good at was nothing else but the killing technique, the Annihilation Sword. The Emperor of Earth had two swords. One was the Emperor of Earth's sword, and the other was the Annihilation Sword. Normally, this sword would not kill him. The Emperor of Earth was also an invincible powerhouse. How could he be killed so easily? But not now. He was seriously injured by the Emperor of Earth's self-destruction. With such an injury, how could he resist this sword? At this time, the small jade sword suddenly shattered. A shocking, murderous aura broke through the source. At this moment, it seemed that there was only this sword left in the world. Hee, I'm out again. At this moment, the Emperor of Earth's laughter sounded again. It was a proud laughter. Brother G, don't run. I have been plotting against you for a long time. You can't escape. Hong. The Emperor of Earth roared. Don't shout. If I can't kill you, how will the three realms look at me? If I can't even kill an emperor, how will I leave behind a legend that will shock the three realms? The Emperor of Earth's voice sounded. He laughed and said, I originally wanted to kill a strong one, but forget it. I probably can't. For example, that How guy is too sinister. So after looking around, I decided to kill you. This sword of mine, the Annihilation Sword, can't annihilate the world, but it can still annihilate you. Ha ha ha. Buzz. At this moment, the three swords felt the power of destruction. The Annihilation Sword. The Emperor of Earth wanted to annihilate the world, but he had never used this sword before. Even the emperors only knew of its existence. They had never seen it before. Today, they knew what the Annihilation Sword was. Rumble. The sword seemed to have been pierced through. The black sword light was filled with the power of destruction. As the sword slashed out, the Emperor of Earth roared. His blood burned, his bones burned, and he broke through layers of the void. However, he couldn't avoid this sword. Hung. The Emperor of Earth roared. He couldn't accept this. He still had many things he hadn't done. He couldn't accept dying at the hands of Hong. Hong didn't want to live. He wanted to die. Before Hong died, he chose to take him with him. The Emperor of Earth couldn't even curse at him. This guy was already dead. No, his Tao fruit hadn't shattered yet, but he was already dead. At this point, he still wanted to take him with him. He really couldn't accept this. Seed. Seed. The Emperor of Earth roared. The source was created by the seed. The seed could transmit power to save him. The Heaven Emperor was entangled with Do and Qiong. He could only stretch out his hand. Now, only the seed could save him. He was still useful to the seed. And just as he was calling for the seed, in a dark part of the universe, the seed seemed to want to leave, but the sun god punched the void and scolded. You want to leave? You brought me here, and you want to leave after playing? Do you think I'm the kind of person you can abandon after playing with me once? Why are you leaving? Continue playing. Let's see who dies. I'm going to play with you today. You're not allowed to leave until I'm satisfied. Yang. What Yang? Call me father. I can't even call you father. Give me a few bites, and I'll let you go. Boom. The sound of an explosion rang out. One person and one seed, at this moment, started playing again in this dark universe. And in the source, the seed didn't save him. The Emperor of Earth watched as the black sword pierced through his body. He was unwilling and in despair. No way. The Heaven Emperor would save him. The seed would save him. Why? Why did he die? He couldn't accept this. Boom. Another earth-shattering roar rang out. This sword was full of destructive power, directly causing the Emperor of Earth's jade bones to explode, fall apart, and completely shatter. You lunatic! With a roar of despair, the Emperor of Earth was too unwilling to accept this. At this moment, no one cared about him. Fang Ping roared, "Quick, seize the Tao fruit!" Boom. On the other side, Heavenly King subduing smashed the celestial barrier with a punch and entered a turbulent world. Song Mao quickly flew toward a place, and in the blink of an eye, he pierced through the void and arrived at a place. Heavenly King, subduing, followed, and at this moment, a figure appeared. Dong Huang. Dong Huang looked at a piece of black jade in front of Song Mao and said with a smile, "The Emperor of Earth's Tao fruit." Heavenly King, subduing's expression changed drastically. Dong Huang was definitely not weaker than Earthly King. He actually came. This guy wanted to seize the Tao fruit. This incomparably low-key fellow was always easily forgotten by others, but his strength was the real deal. Now, everyone knew a lot about Dong Huang. Back then, the attack on Song Mao was secretly planned by him. The change in the celestial origin seemed to be related to him, and he could not escape the death of the three emperors. He seemed to have cooperated with the seed, the celestial emperor, and the divine emperor. Until now, not many people could guess what this guy was thinking. He was very powerful, but very low-key, but he had done a lot of big things. However, after he was done, not many people could think of him. At this moment, was he also here for the Tao fruit? Did he want to escape? The Emperor of Earth's Tao fruit was very strong, and the Emperor was not weak. If Dong Huang was more prepared, he should be able to escape with the help of the Emperor of Earth's Tao fruit. Heavenly King, subduing, was extremely vigilant. At this moment, time was tight, and he could not wait any longer. Seeing that he was about to attack, Dong Huang smiled and said, "Don't panic. It's just the Tao fruit. I don't care too much about it. I just came to take a look and say hello," but Song Mao ignored him, stretched out his claws, and grabbed the black jade. Dong Huang smiled and did not stop him. Seeing this, Heavenly King, subduing, did not care what he wanted to do. He hurriedly retreated, quickly grabbed Song Mao, and fled, running toward the third heaven. Soon, the third heaven was in front of him. Behind him, Fang Ping and Heavenly Emperor's palm were still fighting. At this moment, Heavenly Emperor was constantly collapsing. As for Heavenly King, subduing, as soon as he returned to the third heaven, there was a loud explosion. The world was dark. The Emperor's Tao fruit was shattered. Today, another emperor had fallen. At this point, Beast Emperor, North Emperor, Emperor Li Zhu, Hong Kuan, and Hong Yu had all fallen. The earthly emperor's Tao fruit had not shattered yet. In the next moment, Fang Ping smashed Heavenly Emperor's arm with a saber and quickly flew toward the third heaven. The source world opened, and a part of the emperor's power was transmitted from the Tao fruit, seeping into the source world. As for Fang Ping, a crystal ball appeared in his hand, a look of struggle on his face. Soon, Fang Ping stopped struggling. This was the earthly emperor's choice. As for him, he needed to leave the source and no longer be controlled by it. Send the earthly emperor on his way. Fang Ping whispered softly. With a bang, he crushed the crystal ball. With a bang, a large amount of energy appeared near the source world. Fang Ping did not feel anything before, but now he felt it. This powerful force was cutting off the connection between the brain nucleus and the nearby void, and between heaven and earth there were a few mechanical sounds. The emperor has fallen. The earthly emperor has fallen. Rumble! The explosion sounded again, and the source where the emperor was exploded. The 22nd heaven, where the earthly emperor was still quiet. The Tao fruit was long gone. Chapter 1470. Earthly Sovereign, Human Sovereign, North Sovereign, Beast Sovereign, Hongyu, Li Zhu, and Hong Kuan. In a single day, 7 monarchs had fallen. The sky was dark and boundless, and the three realms trembled violently. Of the 9 heavens in the 3 realms, 3 had already been destroyed, and now 3 more were destroyed. Only 3 remained. The sea roared, the catacombs shook, and the human world shook. In the sea, some of the small islands were completely destroyed. The tsunami struck. On Earth, volcanoes were erupting and earthquakes were frequent. A large number of martial artists were mobilized to suppress the natural disasters. There was still order on Earth, but there was no order in the catacombs anymore. In the sea, the Chu Wu continent was also trembling violently. Large numbers of sea demons had gone berserk. They could no longer survive in the sea, so they had no choice but to slaughter their way into the continent to find a place to live. Turbulence, chaos. Too many experts had died. Today was like the end of the world. With the fall of the Catacombs Emperor, there was no one to suppress the previously invading Misery Sea, which quickly rushed to the outer realm. Doomsday had arrived. This time, even the celestial arch was powerless to interfere. The human sovereign was dead, the earthly sovereign was dead, and so many sovereigns were dead, the Tao fruit had either self-detonated or been taken away by someone else. The earthly emperor's Tao fruit was used by Fang Ping, the human emperor's Tao fruit was used by the heavenly king, and the beast emperor's Tao fruit was used by the god Forging. However, the self-destruction of the North Emperor and the earthly emperor had caused even greater damage and cracks to appear in the origin ground. Fang Ping had even stolen a large amount of energy from the source land, origin. At this moment, a crack appeared in the sky. It was not a rift, but a door. Behind the rift, Wang Jinyang was already waiting for them. Fang Ping and the others wanted to leave through the door. Only through the door could he take away the Tao fruit. Fang Ping did not care, but if the heavenly king, subduing king, and the god creation envoy wanted to leave, they had to take away the Tao fruit. A group of people tore through the air and ran towards the crack. Fang Ping guarded the 4 directions, worried that Dong Huang and the rest would be cut off at this moment. But at this moment, the source of origin was extremely quiet. In the 36 layers of heaven, Emperor of Heaven Reverse and Emperor God did not stop him. Not only did they not do anything, but they also closed the 36 layers of heaven again. As for the wandering Dong Huang, he did not make a move. At this moment, Dong Huang floated in the sky, hidden within the darkness. Looking at these people who were rushing up into the sky, his face let out a deep smile. His smile was baffling. There were still a few people who didn't leave. Qin Fengqing, the heavenly dog, the book fragrance, and the dragon transformation couldn't leave. The Tao fruit's crack hadn't been filled yet, so they couldn't leave even if they wanted to. At that moment, a sorrowful voice was heard. "Count me in." Big shots of the human race. Count me in. At some unknown point, Emperor Shi had entered the Essence Land. Up in the 8th heaven, Emperor Shi appeared to have taken his Tao fruit. His face was filled with bitterness, pity, grief, and sorrow. In any case, his expression was incomparably complicated. He wanted to chase after them, but he was also afraid of being killed. But if he didn't chase, he wouldn't have the chance to escape. "Big bosses, can you bring me along?" The Western Emperor was so lowly. The lowly Emperor of the West began to pretend to be pitiful. "If I leave, the source land will lose the power of a Tao fruit. How wonderful! The Celestial Emperor will definitely cry. If I don't leave, he'll kill me and use my Tao fruit to make up for another heaven. Take me with you." Emperor Shi's voice was mournful. In the sky, Fang Ping swept a cold glance at him. At this moment, Emperor Shi could guess what he wanted to do. "No, kill me and make up for these guys." He pointed to Book Fragrance and the others who had gathered over there and said pitifully, "It's too late. It takes time to kill me, but if this passageway is maintained for a while, those guys will definitely come, and Wang Jinyang will be finished. Big bosses, take me with you. My son is still in your hands. If I don't obey, then kill my son and threaten me. I'll definitely obey. Was this still human speech? At this moment, only the celestial pole was not here. Otherwise, he would have cursed Emperor Shi to his ancestors. Was he still human? This was not the way to sell one's son. Of course, Emperor Shi did not care. Look, how did the earthly emperor sell his son? He sold 3 at once. How miserable. He only sold 1. What was the big deal? Fong Ping's expression changed, and he growled, "Hurry up, go." Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Emperor Shi shot out. His speed was so fast that it was surprising. This old guy was riveting his strength and sprinting madly in that direction. Time to run. Today was a good day. Regardless of whether the others died or not, he could run. How great! He could even run away with the Tao fruit. He had earned big. 36 levels of heaven. At this moment, Celestial Emperor arrived. This was still not his real body. But this time, he had spent a lot of energy and even used his own divine weapon. This avatar was so powerful that its aura shook the entire heaven and earth. Do you have to do this? 2 people stood in his way. They would not let him go. Celestial Emperor looked calm, but his voice was cold. These 2 had completely fallen out with him this time. They would rather let Fong Ping and the others go than let him go. No matter where we go. Emperor God said, "What's the rush? Let them go." Emperor Heaven, the world is big. Laughed. The source is in turmoil. Many levels of heaven are broken today. Celestial Emperor, I think you should suppress the source. If we fight now, it will be more difficult to suppress the source when more levels of heaven are broken. This is too troublesome. Celestial Emperor looked at the 2 and said coldly, "Let them go. What do you think they can do? Even if Fong Ping has a second source, he has no energy source, and the power of the source is limited. Can he defeat me?" Emperor God chuckled. "Just watch. It's just a game." "Why so serious?" Celestial Emperor said nothing more. He looked at Dong Huang, who was walking toward them. His eyes were cold. No one knew what he was thinking. Dong Huang looked calm and collected. He cupped his fists at them and said with a smile, "Today, I have witnessed Hong's prowess. This guy has done so many things in the past 10,000 years. How unexpected." Then he added with a smile, "You 3, we are not as good as the juniors." At this moment, the remaining 4 people were the oldest batch of beginner martial artists. In the 3 realms, there were only a few beginner martial artists in the first batch. Among the overlords in the past, apart from the 4 of them, there were Sun God and Underworld God, who was slightly weaker. As for Skyarm, he was also very old, but he was weaker back then. As for the other beginner martial artist, he broke through 8 illusions and advanced later. To them, Earthly Sovereign and Jean were indeed young, but there were only a few of them left. Celestial Emperor glanced at the tunnel that was starting to close up. He was no longer in a hurry. He said lightly, "How? You have been hiding all these years and waiting. Is there still no result?" Dong Huang said with a smile, "I am not as good as you guys. Why would I expect anything? I am just muddling through and living a peaceful life. Whether it is in the source land or the 3 realms, there is not much difference. It is just a bigger cage." He did not seem to want to leave and was too lazy to leave. The source land was a cage, but the outside world was not. Yes, in the outside world, it was just a little bigger. Dong Huang said and sighed. In the end, the creator should be the creator. He should not be a ruler or an intelligent life. This is a headache. Dong Huang shook his head. It is fine if it is normal. Unfortunately, the 3 realms has fallen into the hands of the seeds. There is really nothing to say. They only want the world to be in chaos. How can there be peace? Celestial Emperor said indifferently, "What do you want to say?" Dong Huang said with a smile, "Nothing. I just think that Hong might not be wrong. If it is really impossible, it might be more interesting to destroy this world and perish together with that guy. As he spoke, he looked at the three of them and chuckled. But the three of you don't necessarily want to die. I'm afraid that old young God doesn't want to die either. That's why this world is so frustrating, isn't it? The four most powerful ones did not want to die. What else could they say? This world could not be destroyed. Hong was in despair. He could not destroy this world, so he gave up in the end. He pinned his hope on Fang Ping. It was an insignificant hope. Could Fang Ping really destroy the world? Earthly Emperor was not sure, but he would rather give it a try. Either way, he would not be able to do it. Dong Huang did not continue this topic. He looked at the sky and said with a smile, "Celestial Emperor, the source is about to mature. But I think Fang Ping and the others are going out to exterminate the spirits and break the source." Celestial Emperor's expression changed. The next moment, he said coldly, "Then today we will break the barrier of the three realms. When the three realms are united, I will be the master of the source. Let's see if Fang Ping dares to break it." Celestial Emperor said in a low voice, "When the three realms are united, the source will be shaken. Brother Tian, it is already so shaken, but you can still unite. Your strength." I think the crack has been repaired, or is the seed still helping to suppress it? Celestial Emperor was the biggest crack in the source. 70% of his strength had been restrained. Of course, this was what he said before. When the three realms were united, heaven and earth shook, the origin universe arrived, the 9 levels of heaven were broken, and the source was shaken. At this time, the source must be at its most stable to break the barrier of the three realms. But now, Celestial Emperor was going to break the barrier of the three realms and guard the source. Clearly, he could suppress the source. Celestial Emperor said in a low voice. Celestial Emperor also laughed. Celestial Emperor did not mind. They were just pretending to be confused. At this point, who did not know who was who? Right now, the source was riddled with holes. It was not the time to break the barrier, but he had to do it. Otherwise, once Fang Ping and the others left, they would attack the source. By then, Spirit Emperor would not be able to stop Fang Ping. Celestial Emperor suddenly disappeared. At this moment, the entire world was shaking violently. The sky was falling. The moment Fang Ping and the others came out, the sky was falling. It was really falling. Heaven and earth were falling apart. Black cracks crisscrossed between heaven and earth. Seeing this, old Zhang's expression changed slightly. He shouted quickly, "Hurry! Suppress earth! Suppress earth! 4 departments and 4 prefectures. Suppress everywhere! Hurry! Fang Ping, Heavenly Kingjin, go and help!" Old Zhang's shouts resounded across earth. The place where they appeared was earth. At this moment, the entire world was shaking. In the sky, the universe was descending. That was the origin universe. From all directions, there seemed to be the sound of a tsunami. That was the roar of the bitter sea. The three realms were becoming one. Heavenly Kingjun and the others immediately understood. The three realms were becoming one. The three realms becoming one. From then on, there would be no 9 levels of heaven, the origin universe, and the real universe. In the sky, huge stars appeared one after another. Those were the stars of the origin. On this day, the stars in the sky were much more real. They were no longer the reflections of the stars of the past. The sun was the light of the source of the celestial source. The stars were the powerhouses, stars of the source that were reflected to the human world. When martial artists reached rank 9, they all had the existence of the stars of the source. It could be big or small, far or near. In the past, everyone could not sense their own origin very clearly. However, today, those rank 9 martial artists could sense some things and the existence of the stars of the source. In the sky, there was a star that belonged to them. However, in the next moment, a large number of stars crashed. It was like the end of the world. A fallen star represented the death of a powerhouse. At this moment, it was chaos. It was not the human world that was in chaos, but the catacombs. Li Zhu was dead. Heng Yu was dead. Earthly Emperor was dead. The bitter sea was devouring the catacombs. At this moment, the 3 huge continents began to connect and collide with each other. The catacombs, the human world, beginner martial arts. At this moment, the 3 continents, following the shattering of the boundary walls, began to merge together. At this moment, the human world and the catacombs collided immediately. Magic City. Fang Ping stood in front of the original Magic City passageway. At this moment, the passageway had completely disappeared. The celestial realm wall had shattered. In the sea near Magic City, at this moment, an incomparably huge continent appeared. The catacombs. The entire earth began to squeeze and merge. In the past, the huge sea began to be squeezed. Part of the sea turned into a large inland lake. Part of the sea was occupied by foreign continents. Another part of the sea began to be occupied by the bitter sea. The roaring sound of the waves rumbled, impacting the entire 3 realms. Among the 3 huge continents, Earth was the smallest. The catacombs was the largest, followed by Chu mainland. They began to squeeze together. Such an impact, other than top-notch powerhouses, even desperate realm powerhouses, could not suppress it. They could not withstand such a collision force of the continents. The people of Earth were panicking, but the powerhouses of Earth were all there. At this moment, following the outburst of Old Zhang and the others' aura, the projection, and the help of a large number of martial artists, the people from all sides gathered and evacuated. It was still considered peaceful. However, over at the catacombs, it was crazy. The few powerhouses, like the monster emperors, did not have the heart to care about them. The power to destroy the world drove countless martial artists crazy. Some were killing, some were crying, some were fleeing. However, the bitter sea surrounded them in all directions. Where could they run? In the past, they could not wait to invade the human world. However, now that the continents were in contact, there were a lot of human emperors. How would they dare to come into contact with the human world? Projections of powerhouses were projected on all 3 continents. Over at Chu, it was relatively quiet. The most chaotic place was the catacombs. At this moment, the heavenly king powerhouses of Chu were also unleashing their aura to suppress the Chu mainland. A large number of heavenly king powerhouses were resisting the demons who had no choice but to flee to the shore. As for the catacombs, those heavenly kings were suppressing the chaos, but most of their energy was focused on the humans. They were about to border with the humans. From now on, there would be no more barriers. In the past, the humans were afraid of the world wall shattering. Today, they were the ones who were afraid. Part of Mount Imperial Sea had been destroyed previously. At this moment, most of Mount Imperial Sea was still intact. Several top-notch powerhouses were currently gathered at Mount Imperial Sea. The monster emperors King Feng, King Qian, King Zhen. In the past, powerhouses were as numerous as clouds. Now, there were fewer and fewer. They looked at the human continent not far away with solemn expressions. A large number of martial artist armies began to gather. Obviously, after the 3 continents converged, there would definitely be chaos. The fleeing catacombs martial artists, the fleeing catacomb citizens, and the panicking demons would all cause a war between the 3 continents to erupt at any time. However, the catacombs really could not fight against all sides now. not to mention the humans. They could not even defeat the Chu. These were not the most important. More importantly, the three realms were united. The emperors of the origin could also descend. Yes, the emperors could descend. Of course, they would still be restricted by the origin, but it would not be as troublesome as before. They did not need to pass through the origin universe to descend. They could descend directly. After today, a war between emperors might erupt at any time. Moreover, it would not be like before, unable to affect the three realms. Instead, it would erupt within the three realms. If today's war erupted in the three realms, perhaps only 1/10 of the entire three realms would survive. That powerful self-detonation was enough to destroy the entire continent, restrict everyone. At this moment, on the distant Chu mainland, the underworld god rose into the sky. His figure was incomparably huge, illuminating the entire Chu mainland. He roared, "The three realms are united, the continents are colliding. No one is allowed to leave this place. No one is allowed to attack the human world. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy." Even if they died where they were, these people were not allowed to attack the human world. As emperors fell one after another, who did not know how powerful the human world was, the underworld god was afraid that those people would panic and clash with the humans, leading to the outbreak of a war. When that happened, it would probably be the end of Chu. At this moment, he could not afford to be careless or soft-hearted. There was no such order in the catacombs. At this moment, only 1/10 of the people in the outer domain were left. In the inner domain, the natural moat of Mount Imperial Sea was still there. Other than the absolute peak, no one else could cross it. Did the absolute peak need restrictions? If you were not afraid of death, you could try attacking the human world. As for those who were left in the outer domain, they could not care about them. The moment the continents collided, perhaps everyone would die. There was no need to care about these. The collision of the three realms was not the most dangerous. At this moment, the world was filled with cracks, spatial fissures. The Sea of Bitterness was attacking the three continents. These were the most dangerous. The water of the Sea of Bitterness could be instantly melted by those below the Golden Body realm. As for the spatial fissures, as the 9 heavens shattered, there were even fissures that could cut through 9 powerhouses. These were the most dangerous. That was not all. At this moment, the origin universe turned into a starry sky. In the starry sky, that dark place was also the most dangerous. That was where the origin was. On this day, everyone could see the origin. Just above the immortal origin, behind the sun, there was darkness. Stars adorned the three realms. At this moment, all living beings in the three realms could see the sun and also some huge stars. The stars and the sun were together. The radiance of the immortal origin could no longer cover the light of these stars. Powerhouses who did not enter the origin could see the stars of the origin. And powerhouses who entered the origin, who were also emperors, actually had the existence of the stars of the origin. However, they were all formed from Tao fruits and were blocked by the origin. Outsiders could not see them clearly. At this moment, the brightest star in the three realms was not the immortal origin, but the star of King Marshall. He entered the origin. At this moment, an incomparably huge star hung in the sky. However, it quickly disappeared. King Marshall did not want his star to be attacked. Fong Ping did not suppress the turbulence, nor did he care about the catacombs and Chu Wu. At this moment, he was looking at the immortal origin in the sky, looking at the origin above the immortal origin. The origin was like a big black cake, decorating the immortal origin in the middle. The immortal origin and the origin were connected. The celestial emperor personally suppressed the immortal origin. At this moment, the Celestial Emperor could walk out of the origin at any time and attack the human world. Of course, when they walked out of the origin, their strength would still be slightly suppressed. The immortal origin was even more resplendent. It seemed like it could be plucked at any time. This was a sign that the immortal origin was about to mature. Maturing actually meant that the empty area around the origin could be sealed. Not only that, at this moment, the broken paths did not seem as wide as before. The Celestial Emperor's voice suddenly sounded, spreading throughout the three realms. From today onwards, martial artists who break 8 can prove their Tao, cross the broken path, and break through to become emperors. The day of becoming an emperor had arrived. And this was not the end, just the beginning. In the next moment, an even more shocking voice was heard. Breaking 8 in the origin, killing Chu Wu, breaking 8, broken path self-repair. Chu Wu breaks 8, killing origin breaks 8. Stars fall, absorb the power of origin. Prove your Tao, break 9. These 2 sentences made the powerhouses of the Chu Wu continent and the catacombs tremble at the same time. Massacre. This indicated that the massacre had begun. Chu Wu kills Origin. Hope to break 9. Origin kills Chu Wu. Hope to prove your Tao. Origin, do you want to prove your Tao? If you did not prove your Tao, you would always have the strength and soon die in the chaos of war. If you proved your Tao, even if the origin was a cage, it would be safer than now. Now, what was safer was that North Emperor and the others were dead. The Divine Emperor and the others might not think highly of these newly promoted emperors. At this time, it was much safer than before. On the ground, Fang Ping sneered. Massacre? Kill Chu Wu? Kill those who had obtained the power of the seeds back then, such as Sky Arm and the Underworld God. As for the origin, these broken paths had been controlled, so it could make the immortal origin mature faster. If the origin died, it would not lose anything. If it was alive, it could kill a few Chu Wu breakers, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Fang Ping looked at the sky and did not say anything. At this time, he was no match for the Celestial Emperor. However, if the Celestial Emperor walked out of the origin, would he dare? Was he not afraid that if he walked out, the Divine Emperor and the others would rebel? He was afraid. Therefore, at this moment, the Divine Emperor and the others were fighting, restraining the Celestial Emperor. Fang Ping was actually also restraining the Celestial Emperor. The Celestial Emperor was in the most difficult situation at this time, not to mention that the Sun God was still in the human world. Although the Sun God was playing with the seeds, who knew if he would appear in the 3 realms at any time. Although the Celestial Emperor said that it was time to prove his Tao. However, at this time, no one chose to start a war. The emperors were watching. They did not dare to move, afraid of attracting the attention of the emperors and killing, especially the Chu Wu side. They had reached an agreement with the human race before, so the monster emperor and the others did not dare to act recklessly at this time. And the Chu Wu powerhouses did not dare to act recklessly at this time. The Celestial Emperor and the others might not help the Chu Wu. The probability of helping the origin was higher. Under each of their scruples, all parties did not move. The 3 mainlands were all busy and turbulent. As for Fang Ping, he sat alone in the void, becoming the boundary between heaven and earth, motionless, as if he was ready to kill the emperors at any time. Chapter 1471. A deafening rumble was heard. Cries of pain, roars of anger, roars. The 3 continents collided. At this moment, a large number of ordinary people died. A large number of martial artists died. There were also deaths in the human world. It was rare, but there were still some. The violent collision caused the earth to crack and various natural disasters to erupt. Even if the humans had already made arrangements and countless martial artists were rescuing, they still could not stop it completely. However, compared to the other two places, it was much better. At this moment, how many powerhouses in new martial arts and the catacombs were willing to rescue those ordinary people? The drastic changes in the battle of doctrine and the unification of the three realms had long left them with no time to care. There were many heavenly kings in new martial arts. They could still take care of one or two. The situation in the catacombs was really tragic. Fang Ping opened his eyes and saw the seawater engulfing the catacombs. He saw the demons attacking the catacombs. He saw the outbreak of natural disasters taking away countless lives. He was very cold. He had never thought of helping. The humans had the ability to help. Even if they could not save everyone, they could still stop those huge disasters. However, Fang Ping did not mention it. They were his enemies, and he did not care about their lives. Moreover, he was not a kind person. His kindness was only towards those who were kind to him. Fang Ping continued to close his eyes. Until this moment, his origin world had not finished expanding. It was still continuing. After a long time, Fang Ping's body trembled slightly. The expansion had finally stopped. This time, the system seemed to be calculating the data. The conversion to data was a little slow. After a while, this artifact began to operate and fed back the data to Fang Ping. In fact, without looking at the data, Fang Ping knew how much he had improved this time. The earthly emperor's family. Fang Ping really did not know what to say. It was them who forced the humans to fight. It was them who forced Fang Ping to improve. It was them who, at the last moment, pinned all their hopes on Fang Ping. Revenge, break the cage, and destroy this despairing three realms. Vitality, 95 million calories mentality, 650,000 Hertz jade bones, 99% with vitality qualitative change. Origin world, 98,500 meters combat techniques. Chaos vanquishing saber techniques plus 20%. Strength control, 100% plus 20%. It had become much, much stronger. Vitality had increased from 40 million to 95 million directly. It had more than doubled. The increase in mental power was slightly less, but it was still terrifyingly powerful. 650,000 hertz. Fang Ping, on the other hand, frowned slightly. He was thinking, was it enough? Was the power of the three emperors enough for him to convert? How much power was left? Not being able to convert it into origin power was actually a great loss. Fang Ping could not care less about leaving some energy for Old Wang and the other two. Right now, improving himself was the best choice for him. Very soon, Fang Ping began the conversion. The system's main body, the invisible little ball, also started to tremble. The power it provided seemed to be intermittent. Clearly, the power of the three emperors was about to run out. Fang Ping did not know if he could recharge it. He hoped that he could find a way. This still depended on the God-crafting envoy. Fortunately, he brought the God-crafting envoy back this time. Only the God-creation envoy had the hope of finding a way to charge this kind of divine tool. The next moment, Fang Ping completed the conversion. As for the main body of the system, it felt like it was running out of energy storage at this moment. Fang Ping sighed. The next time he leveled up, it might be difficult to convert. His current strength might be his limit. Vitality, 0, 80 million calories. Mentality, 0, 800,000 hertz. Origin force, 8,000 original, 160 million calories vitality. Jade bones, 99% vitality qualitative change. Source world, 98500 meters combat technique. Chaos vanquishing saber technique, plus 20%. Strength control, 100%, plus 20%. Maximum vitality, 224 million. Fang Ping's gaze was a little strange. Strong, too strong. At this moment, he felt that he was terrifyingly powerful. it actually exceeded 200 million calories. He suddenly felt that he could rival the celestial emperor, and the sun god now, the sun god and the celestial emperor's strength had probably reached this level. The divine emperor and the celestial emperor should be slightly weaker. They might be close to 200 million, but there was a high probability that they had not reached 200 million. Did this not mean that the current him had hope of dealing with the celestial emperor? Fang Ping looked at the sky. He did not expect that his source world would expand so much after the earthly emperor's family integrated into his own source world. It had directly reached more than 90,000 meters, close to 100,000 meters. According to his past experience, 100,000 meters might be another world. More than 220 million calories. Fang Ping adapted to his strength, adapted to the strength of his physical body. He looked at the sky and frowned slightly. He should have reached their level, right? The earthly emperor's family had really brought him too much transformation and strengthening. The strengthening surprised Fang Ping. He had actually broken through the 200 million mark. This was the symbol of the sun god and the celestial emperor. Fang Ping looked at the sky. After a while, his eyes suddenly flickered, and he looked at his own source world. The expansion of his source world would make his strength stronger. In fact, the strength of his body had a lot to do with the source world. But now, Fang Ping found something strange. His source world seemed to be a little unstable. It seemed like it could not support his more than 200 million calories combat strength. When the war broke out, he might have such powerful strength for a short time. However, the source would be like the previous Tao. Maybe it would collapse. Emperor Tao. At this moment, Fang Ping suddenly understood. Emperor Tao. This world was not stable. He still lacked Emperor Tao. Previously, Emperor did not cultivate Emperor Tao purely, and the Tao fruit was mainly absorbed by suppressing Heavenly King. Fang Ping only intercepted some of the strength. In this way, this world was actually not stable. More than 200 million calories combat strength was mostly provided by this source world. Fang Ping was actually another celestial emperor. Of course, the source of his source world's energy was not bestowed by the seed. Instead, it was what Fang Ping had intercepted and stolen from the current source world, including what the earthly sovereign's family had stolen. In this world, Fang Ping was also a dominator like the celestial emperor. Fang Ping's heart stirred slightly. My origin can't support an outburst of more than 200 million cal combat strength. Celestial Tharch had waited for so many years and never dealt with Cheong and the others. Perhaps it was because the origin was not perfect enough. The demon emperor Tao fruit had not condensed, and the heaven, earth, and human emperor Tao fruits were not authentic enough. Even if his source of power is sufficient, and his combat power is over 200 million, there is a high chance that he will not be able to fight for long, just like me. On the other hand, he might be able to last longer in the origin. If that's the case, no wonder he invited old Zhang to corroborate his Tao. No wonder he hoped that the Tao tree could corroborate his Tao. Fang Ping could more or less understand Celestial Emperor's state now. Very strong, at least not weaker than him. However, the Celestial Tharch was the same as him. His origin was not stable enough. Fang Ping was the same. If they fought for a long time, the origin world would collapse, and their combat strength would decline rapidly. As for the Divine Emperor and Do, they might know this drawback. That was why the two of them did not leave the Source World. They were certain that it was safer in the Source World. The Celestial Emperor would not dare to attack them in the Source World. The instability of the Source World was most likely related to the Sun God. This guy swallowed a lot of power and left, causing the Source World to become more unstable. Otherwise, with the scale and quantity of the first Source World, even if it was not stable, it should be stronger than Fang Ping's world. However, the Celestial Emperor was not powerful to the point of being terrifying. This meant that the current first source world was not as stable as his second source world. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was riddled with holes. A source that is riddled with holes like this can actually allow the Celestial Emperor to reach this point and even support the Divine Emperor and the others. This is truly terrifying. A source world that was almost in ruins could support so many powerhouses without collapsing. It was simply terrifying. The immortal source is to repair the source world. Fang Ping looked at the sun. At this time, he completely understood. The goal of the immortal source was to repair the source world, to repair the places that were riddled with holes by the sun god. It was also to seal the source world. Seal the source world. Fang Ping was slightly shocked. He had sealed the source world. His strength had a 20% bonus. What about the Celestial Emperor? What if he had sealed the source world? Would there be an additional 20% bonus? I will. I definitely will. Therefore, as long as the immortal source is formed and the source world is sealed, he can instantly increase the power outburst by more than 40 million calories. He can then kill the Divine Emperor and the Celestial Emperor successfully. Therefore, the Celestial Emperor has been waiting. Otherwise, to deal with the Divine Emperor and the Celestial Emperor, he may break the source world himself. The current Celestial Emperor cannot crush both of them. Fang Ping completely understood. He understood that the Celestial Emperor was waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the bonus of strength. For a powerhouse like the Celestial Emperor, an instant increase of more than 40 million calories was too terrifying. In addition, the source world was more stable. He could fight for a long time without fear of breaking the source world. This kind of Celestial Emperor was in his strongest state. Fang Ping understood. He and the Celestial Emperor were now in an unstable state. On the other hand, the Sun God, Fang Ping, gritted his teeth. Sun God's combat strength might not be as good as his and the Celestial Emperor's. But this old guy, his combat strength could last forever. He did not need the source world to be stable. If that was the case, after a long battle, the Sun God might be the strongest. The Celestial Emperor wants to seal the source world. First, he wants to use the immortal source to repair those areas that have been sucked dry by the Sun God. Second, he wants to cut off the three emperors' Tao. Fang Ping calculated in his heart, sooner or later, the Celestial Emperor would attack the three emperors. This was for sure. Otherwise, he could not complete the increase in strength. A good plan to seal the source world, but it is riddled with holes and full of loopholes, Fang Ping sneered. It was not that the Celestial Emperor was incompetent. It was not that he was useless. The key was that there were too many troublemakers. Zhan was causing trouble. Earthly Sovereign was causing trouble. The Divine Emperor and the Celestial Emperor were also causing trouble. The key was still the Sun God. This Sun God guy suddenly rushed over and sucked the source world into a pavilion. This was the most unfortunate thing for the Celestial Emperor. Yes, from a sphere sucked into a pavilion. This was the Sun God's masterpiece. It caused the Celestial Emperor to have no choice but to build the Sanjiao Gate and create the immortal source. In the end, the three emperors cultivated by the Divine Emperor, and the others pierced 3 holes. Could he not fail? Fang Ping shook his head. The Celestial Emperor was considered unlucky. Otherwise, if the Sun God had not absorbed so much energy that the powerhouses of the 3 realms were trapped, they would have died today. The 3 realms would not be like this a long time ago. Fang Ping suddenly laughed. He suddenly sympathized with the Celestial Emperor. A good revenge plan ended up in a mess. He was just 1 step away from success. However, it was this step that was messed up by the Sun God. The Celestial Emperor had no choice but to tear down the east wall to repair the west wall, leaving opportunities for others again and again to cause trouble. The Sun God said that he is the savior. It's not wrong. Fang Ping laughed. Otherwise, how powerful would the Celestial Emperor be if he succeeded at that time? His strength would increase, the source world would be sealed, and his combat strength would be stable. It was even possible for him to reach 300 million calories. Who could contend with such a Celestial Emperor? One wrong step leads to many wrong steps. Fang Ping was a little amused. In the end, the Celestial Emperor might even want to chase the Emperor God and the others away, but these few might have sensed that something was wrong and refused to leave. Yes, this was the attitude the Emperor God and the others gave Fang Ping. They would not leave. They did not plan to leave the source world at all. If they left, it would be even more dangerous. After laughing for a while, Fang Ping could not laugh anymore. He was very powerful. However, he was now like the Celestial Emperor, falling into a vicious cycle. Fighting a prolonged battle would cause his source world to be riddled with holes and even collapse. The Celestial Emperor was using the immortal source to make up for it. Moreover, his source world was very powerful and more stable. What about himself? Did he have to look for old Zhang and let him make up for it? Combat strength can't last long. When dealing with people like the Celestial Emperor, how can we not fight fiercely? Once our source world collapses, we'll be sending ourselves to death. Fang Ping sighed and looked at old Zhang, who was commanding the martial artists to suppress the disaster in the distance. Could it be that old Zhang really had to die to help him? This was not a problem of Dao severing. Li Zhu and the others had burned their Dao fruits and themselves to succeed. Old Zhang might also have to sacrifice himself to perfect the Emperor's path. If I tell him, he'll probably do it, so I can't tell him about this yet. Fang Ping shook his head slightly. He could not say it. If he did, old Zhang might really do it. His death would make up for Fang Ping's source world, allowing Fang Ping to have the ability to fight against the Celestial Emperor and the others. Old Zhang would definitely be happy. However, Fang Ping had fought until today to protect these people. If these people died, what was the point of fighting? This is troublesome. Fang Ping felt that it was troublesome, very troublesome, if his combat strength could not last long. So what if he had more than 200 million cal? He did not have to be so strong to kill the weak. If he could not kill the powerhouses in a short time, he would be in big trouble. Now, he was in the same situation as the Celestial Emperor, really caught in a struggle. Meow. At this moment, behind him, a cat meowed. It looked at Fang Ping curiously, its claws knocking on Fang Ping's head. Fang Ping laughed. Why are you here? Meow. Liar. The cat's fat face was full of a strange expression. I think a cat is going to appear in your house. Huh. A trash can cat. The cat continued to knock his head, muttering, There's no one now. If there are more people and lives, a trash can will appear in your small world. Otherwise, it will be like this source world. Fang Ping frowned slightly and glanced at the cat. Trash can, this was the cat's favorite thing to say recently. Fang Ping suddenly realized that if the Celestial Emperor really wanted to seal the source world, he would definitely capture this cat and bring it back. Not for anything else, but to let this cat absorb and integrate some of the source world's injuries. This was the purpose of the cat's existence. The cat seemed to understand. It squatted beside Fang Ping, raised its head, looked at Fang Ping, and muttered, Liar, why do you not have a cat in your house? How about I become a trash can for you? Fang Ping's gaze moved slightly, looking at the cat. The cat said dejectedly, I can go back to that source world and become a trash can, or I can go back to this source world and become a trash can. But in that place, the Celestial Emperor is bad and bad. He definitely won't give me anything delicious to eat. Why don't I become a trash can here? Liar! You can give me something delicious to eat. Fang Ping frowned. You can absorb all the filth of the source world. I guess I can. The cat was also not sure, muttering, I can try. Fang Ping patted the big cat's head, chuckling. It's not that serious. Even if you really come to my source world and become a trash can, you can still be free and unfettered. I know where the problem with the Celestial Emperor's source world is. Sun God and the others made a mess, causing all kinds of loopholes in the source world. If my side is more stable, it won't be like that. If you really come here, then just eat and sleep, sleep and eat, just like for the past tens of thousands of years, helping to suppress the small black mud swamp. At this moment, Fang Ping knew more about the source world. If the cat could really absorb these things, it would not produce too much when it came to his side, because his source world, although small, was relatively much more stable and complete. Of course, the premise was that the Emperor path was included. Otherwise, it would be worse than the Celestial Emperor, and it would be more troublesome. If that was the case, even if the cat came, it would not have to suppress the source world forever. It would be fine as long as it was in its current state. Fang Ping did not refuse because he was thinking about a problem. The problem that the earthly sovereign said, if he could move the human race into the source world, his own source world, and cut off the connection with the seed, then the seed's spiritual intelligence would dissipate, and the human race would be safe. Cut off. Fang Ping fell into deep thought. Could it be done? Could it cut off the connection between the seed and the human race? His source world, including himself, essentially, the power still came from the seed. Could it really cut off the seed? The earthly sovereign said that he was special, coming from the inside of the seed, and not considered a person of the three realms. But he was also born from the seed. Would he not provide wisdom to the seed if he was alive? Also, the world inside the seed also had a large number of human beings living in it. Sometimes Fang Ping wondered if the seed could not destroy its wisdom at all. Even if the three realms were destroyed, as long as the world was not destroyed, wouldn't the seed still have wisdom? Unless there was something different. Only the human race of the three realms could provide the seed with spiritual intelligence. Different place, Fang Ping fell into deep thought. Since the earthly sovereign and the rest knew that the seed had an inner world, why did they believe that he could destroy the seed's wisdom? These people were not stupid. That world and the people in this world are actually the same. Back then, someone told me that it could only be considered a projected world. A projected world. Fang Ping muttered to himself. A projected world. Yes, that inner world could only be considered a projected world of the three realms. That was why he could walk out of the seed's world and merge with himself in this world. Could it be that that world is actually considered a kind of illusion and not a real world? Fang Ping murmured. Was that so? Otherwise, it did not make sense that John and the earthly sovereign both knew that the seed had an inner world, yet they still chose to do so. Perhaps the seed could only create one world. When the three realms were destroyed, the inner world could only be turned from illusion to reality. Then what am I? Fang Ping shook his head. Then what was he? Was he detached from the outside world, or was it that he had not detached from the outside world? Perhaps in the end, he had to destroy himself to make the seed's wisdom disappear. It's a complicated question, but now I don't have to think about this. Fang Ping exhaled. Now, he did not have to think about this. The key was still Celestial Emperor, and the rest. If he did not deal with these people, it would be meaningless to think about it. The immortal source was about to mature. Celestial Emperor was urging those people to prove their Tao. This was just the beginning. Next, he would definitely force them to prove their Tao, make them perfect their Tao, perfect the immortal source, and then break the immortal source to repair the source. Big Cat. Fong Ping suddenly glanced at the cat and laughed. Are you a demon? I don't think so. The cat looked at him strangely. Why are you looking at me? Are you a creature of the three realms? The earthly sovereign said to destroy the human race. Fong Ping felt that to destroy the seed's wisdom, he might have to destroy all the creatures of the three realms, not just the human race. The cat blinked. I don't know. I'm a cat. Am I not a creature? Fong Ping laughed. Maybe you really don't count. Fong Ping murmured. Maybe you're the only creature in the three realms that is not a creature. Patting the cat's head, Fong Ping laughed. If one day I die, you go and eat the seed. Eat it into your cat world and fill the black swamp, okay? The cat blinked its big eyes and looked at Fong Ping as if it understood what he meant. Lying beside Fong Ping, the cat did not say a word, its tail sweeping Fong Ping's cheek. I know you're very smart. You know what I mean. If that day really comes, you'll do it. Haven't you never eaten the seed before? Follow me. I'll let you have a taste of meat. You can eat the seed too. Fong Ping laughed. Eat the seed. What a great dream. You will have the chance to realize it. Meow. A cat's cry with some sadness sounded. The cat did not reply. Was the three realms really going to be destroyed? The liar had already prepared himself for this. He seemed to be dissatisfied with the current three realms. If the three realms were destroyed, the seed would be destroyed. Would the cat eat the seed and create a new three realms? At that time, would there still be liars? The cat lay on its stomach, wagging its tail, sweeping Fong Ping. Why was the three realms so heartless? As for Fong Ping, he looked at the sky again and chuckled softly. He hoped that he could isolate the seed. If that was the case, perhaps he did not need to die. Could he hide in the new world and let the cat eat the seed? Of course, the premise was that he had to kill Celestial Emperor and the others, a group of annoying fellows. The three realms had been turned into a mess by these people. He hated this group of old antiques. Only when the source is stable can we hope to kill Celestial Emperor. Fong Ping murmured and fell into deep thought. How should I choose? P.S. Promote a book, Great Ming's Outstanding Youth. Look at the saber in my hand. Am I outstanding? Chapter 1472. The rumbling sounds continued. The three continents collided and merged, the source universe descended, and ninth heaven shattered. This scene was like the creation of the world. The three realms was restoring the ecology of the ancient times. Of course, compared to the ancient times, there was something more in the sky now. The source universe, which did not exist in the ancient times. Beginner martial world had changed. In midair, after a while, old Zhang and the others arrived. Looking at Fong Ping, who was not far away, old Zhang glanced at King, subduing with a complicated gaze. Now, many emperors had died, and the remaining were top-notch powerhouses, true invincible powerhouses. Even King, subduing, could not help Fong Ping much at this moment. The pressure was shifted to Fong Ping once again. Old Zhang felt very guilty and helpless. He did not expect Fong Ping to walk so fast and so far. He originally thought that he could play a big role after breaking through 9, and his combat strength began to approach 100 million, but now it seemed that it was still not enough. Old Devil Zhen, if you, me, and the others join forces, can we deal with the Emperor God and the others? Hearing this, King Subduing was a little helpless and said telepathically, I'm afraid it's still not enough to deal with the Emperor God and the others, but I have some confidence in dealing with Emperor Dong Huang. They had a lot of people, and King Subduing's combat strength was also over 100 million, in addition to King Wu, God Creation, Tengu, cat, scholar, if they roped in dragon form, and Qin Fengqing, who was still in the origin, it might be a little difficult to deal with the Emperor God, but they still had some confidence in dealing with Emperor Donghuang. Before this, no one had actually considered this point, and no one had thought of dealing with the Emperor God and the others. Because the 9 emperors were all alive, there were too many people, and everyone wanted to kill as many as they could. But now, North Emperor and the others were all dead, and there were only a few left, dealing with the Emperor God, and the others had actually exceeded their expectations. Zhang Tao did not say anything else, and quickly appeared beside Fang Ping. Fang Ping opened his eyes and looked at them, smiling. Done. Done. Old Zhang chuckled. It's not a big deal. At this point, would these guys dare to provoke us? Our enemies are only those few in the sky, and the others are nothing to worry about. However, beginner martial and the catacombs might start a war, and some conflicts have broken out between these two sides. After all, beginner martial has cooperated with us. Do you think we should make a move? Beginner, Fang Ping cast his gaze toward another mainland that had begun to merge with the human world. Over there, waves of heavenly king coercion rose, stabilizing the mainland and calming the hearts of the people. Both sides did not dare to provoke humans, but there was not much fear between the catacombs and beginner martial artists. Fang Ping watched for a while and said calmly, "Don't bother. Let them fight. Weaken the strength of both sides, and let some of the troublemakers die. Otherwise, it will be difficult to discipline them." Old Zhang raised his eyebrows slightly. Fang Ping smiled and said, "Since the 3 continents have merged, of course, they have to be unified. Don't tell me they still want to have a tripartite system? Those who should be killed were killed, those who should be pacified were pacified, and those who should be subdued could also be subdued. There are billions of people on both sides. Are we really going to kill them all?" Fang Ping continued, "Of course, these people might not be able to live for long." Fang Ping's tone was a little chilly. "Once the war starts, our people won't even be enough to protect the humans, let alone them. When the time comes, how many of them survive or die will depend on their luck." It all depended on luck. If they really fought against the Celestial Arch and the others, who would go out of their way to control themselves, the 3 realms were bound to be affected. There were many human powerhouses. They could still protect 1 or 2 people. The other 2 continents could only depend on their own luck. If they were unlucky, they would all be annihilated. If they were lucky, there might be quite a number of people who could survive. Fang Ping did not think there was anything wrong with it. He could not possibly let the human powerhouses go and protect others instead of protecting their own people. When old Zhang heard this, he did not say anything else. He could not even care about himself. Naturally, he could not care about others. Heavenly King Suppressing looked at Fang Ping and raised his eyebrows slightly. He said with some uncertainty, "Is what Hong and the rest did effective? Has your source world really separated from the source ground?" "Yes, it separated from the source ground, but separated from the source ground did not mean that it separated from the seed world." Fang Ping had no way to test this. Heavenly King Suppressing saw him nod and said with some emotion, "Hong, this guy has really exceeded my expectations." As he said that, Heavenly King Suppressing continued, "Now, Celestial Emperor is waiting for the immortal source to mature." He frowned slightly, looking at the big sun in the sky. He felt a little awkward and a little uncomfortable. Now, all the schemes were laid out in the open. Celestial Emperor was waiting for the immortal source to mature. Very soon, very soon. Heavenly King Suppressing knew what kind of state the immortal source was in. He sighed softly and said, "Now that the 3 realms are one, it is easier to comprehend the origin. The origin is right in front of us. Even if everyone does not cultivate the rich energy of the 3 realms and the clear sense of Tao can also let people quickly step into rank 9 and enter the origin. When more people enter rank 9, this immortal source will mature. The source universe directly descended into the three realms. The source ground was right in front of them. It could be said that even if everyone did not cultivate now, they would still make rapid progress. Fang Ping was silent. Old Zhang hesitated for a moment and asked, "Can sending people to your source world cut off the connection with the immortal source?" If it could, then it would be simple. Fang Ping shook his head slightly. No, he could not do it. These people's Tao was connected to the immortal source and related to the source ground. Even if they entered their own source world, even if his source world cut off the source ground, it still could not cut off their Tao. This was what Fang Ping was having a headache about. Old Zhang frowned slightly and said, "Can it? In that case, your source world is still unable to cut off the entire three realms. In that case, your source world is actually not completely independent." Fang Ping said nothing. Old Zhang said again, "Is there a flaw in your source ground?" "It's not too bad. No, there should be a flaw. Otherwise, I think it might be possible to cut it off." Old Zhang said faintly, "Is it because the Emperor path is not complete?" Fang Ping frowned and looked up at him. "The formation of the source ground is more complicated than you think. Do you think that if you sacrifice yourself, my source ground will be complete? Aren't you overestimating yourself?" Old Zhang smiled and nodded. "Don't worry. I won't act recklessly without full confidence." He raised his head and glanced at the sun, then at the surroundings. There were people constantly stepping into a higher realm. Suddenly, he chuckled softly. The whole world is almost at a high martial arts level. Everyone was becoming stronger. The source and the three realms were one. There was no shortage of energy. At this moment, a large number of martial artists were beginning to advance. A large number of ordinary people had stepped onto the path of martial artists. It was an exaggeration to say that the whole world was a high rank, but now the number of high-ranked martial artists was probably more than 10 million. This number was still increasing. If this went on, the immortal source would mature very quickly. Old Zhang sighed softly. "I want everyone to stop cultivating, but they can't not cultivate either. If they don't cultivate, the environment of the three realms is not suitable for survival at all. The gravity has increased. Space cracks are everywhere. Energy has exploded. It has even begun to compress the entire three realms. If they don't cultivate, everyone can't even breathe. They can't even survive. They have no choice but to cultivate to resist the pressure and the sea of suffering. But if they cultivate and become stronger, the immortal source will mature even faster, another dead end. If you don't cultivate, it will be difficult for you to even survive. If you cultivate, the immortal source will mature faster and faster." Old Zhang looked at the sky again and chuckled. "I asked the god Forging Envoy, when the Tao on the immortal source exceeds 1,000,000, the immortal source may be completely mature. 1,000,000 people will step into rank 9. Now, the human rank 9 martial artists are probably more than 100,000. Old Zhang's eyes were faint. He looked around. In the void, many Tao appeared. Many rank 8 martial artists quickly stepped into rank 9. Old Zhang did not stop them. He had no way to stop them. The Tao was right in front of them. Just like Fang Ping and the others back then, the Tao was tempting them to step into it. Not everyone could resist this temptation, like Fang Ping and Old Man Li. Many people could not help but step into the Tao of origin directly. There was no way to stop them. Moreover, if they did not break through here, it would be the same in the catacombs. Not only that, There were actually quite a lot of people who cultivated the Tao of origin. They were also stepping into the Tao of origin. If the humans did not break through here, they would break through sooner or later. The immortal source would mature sooner or later. And now, on the 3 continents, the human rank 9 martial artists were not the most. There were more in the catacombs. They had many martial artists to begin with. Back then, there were thousands of rank 9 martial artists in the outer domain. There were tens of thousands of rank 9 martial artists in the inner domain. In the past few years, as cultivation became easier, although the human world had obtained greater convenience, the catacombs also had such convenience. Now, there were more rank 9 martial artists in the catacombs because there were many demons, especially the bitter sea demons. Back then, the lowest among them was rank 8. Including these demons, there should be more than 100,000 rank 9 in the catacombs. There were also many rank 9 martial artists in the Chu mainland. On the 3 continents, there were more than 300,000 martial artists above rank 9. And this number was now increasing crazily. According to Old Zhang and the others' judgment, if this went on, it would take a year at most. Maybe not even a year. This number would exceed 1 million. Old Zhang paused and said, "This refers to rank 9. In fact, when someone breaks through Paragon, Emperor, Heavenly King, or even Emperor, one person can fight against thousands." Old Zhang said bitterly, "So if all of them really need rank 9, then we may still have a year." But the situation is not like that. Now, there are even many people who want to achieve Emperor Realm. One Emperor Realm may be comparable to 10,000 rank 9 martial artists. If King Qian and the others succeed, then the immortal source will mature faster. Heavenly King Jin also added, "We want to get rid of these guys and buy some time. But if we make a move now, I'm afraid the Celestial Emperor won't just watch. In this way, if we make a move, it may cause the war to break out earlier." Again, it was a dilemma on both sides. Old Zhang said with a smile, "So, I think we still have to delay. If we delay, maybe there will be a higher chance." Fang Ping did not say anything. He also looked up at the immortal source. What did Emperor West say? Fang Ping asked. Suddenly, Old Zhang said helplessly, "What else can he say?" He said he's not good at fighting and his strength is not that great. He can help us restrain the Spirit Emperor. That's the most he can do. Also, he wants us to send people to help. It's best if Xu Xiang and the others come together. Fang Ping laughed. To restrain a Spirit Emperor. Emperor West actually wanted Xu Xiang and the others to help. This guy had a good plan. Heavenly King Zhen also said with a smile, "This guy can't be counted on. As for my master, I went to Sun City and couldn't find him. I don't know if he's hiding or something happened," he said with a slight headache. "I don't know what this old guy is doing." Fang Ping did not say anything. Actually, he had sensed it before. Now that he thought about it, he said slowly, "He may not be in the 3 realms or not in the 3 realms and the origin, but in another space. I have some senses. There are 2 powerful forces fighting. He may have encountered Seed. Previously, when Emperor asked for help, he wanted to find Seed. Seed did not help, maybe because he was restrained." Fang Ping chuckled. "It's a good thing. Seed is a variable. Now that he is really entangled with Sun God, it will reduce a lot of trouble. Let that old guy play with Seed." As Fang Ping said, he looked at Old Zhang. "Your next mission is not on Earth. Go to the other 2 mainlands. Whether you agree or not, try to unify the 3 realms. Maybe you can continue to strengthen your strength. Emperor God, Emperor Do, Emperor East, Celestial Emperor, a total of 4 powerhouses. Even if I deal with Celestial Emperor, I'm afraid I can't do anything about the others. I still need your help. Emperor Heaven Reverse and Emperor God's attitude is unclear. Even if Celestial Emperor is restrained now, no one knows what they are thinking. Therefore, at the critical moment, we still need powerhouses to restrain them. Even if we can't deal with them, we still need to entangle them. You and Heaven-subduing King have the highest hope, Fong Ping exhaled. Although you don't enter the source land to prove your Tao, if you really get the recognition of the three realms, I think even if you don't prove your Tao, your combat strength will still increase a lot. In addition, all humans are becoming stronger. When the time comes, you can borrow more power. Even if you can't match them, you can still stop them from causing trouble. Old Zhang nodded slightly. Then I'll try. Now that the human race is strong, I have indeed received a lot of feedback. However, there are also some drawbacks. Mentality and vitality force are about to be unbalanced. That thing, I'll hand it over to the God Forging Envoy. I think the power inside is almost exhausted. When the God Forging Envoy has a way to recharge it, then we'll think of a way. The two continued to communicate for a while. Old Zhang did not say anything else. He still had a lot of things to do. The speed of the three realms merging was too fast, beyond expectations. He still had to run around now, including with Chu Wu and even the catacombs. He had to pay attention. Old Zhang came quickly and left quickly as well. After he left, Heaven-subduing King said softly, "Your source land still lacks humanity. The Celestial Emperor has always wanted to make up for all kinds of great Tao, but he has not succeeded. Your chances are greater than the Celestial Emperor's." If Zhang Tao, Fong Ping looked at him and said slowly, "If what? Learn from the earthly emperor's family?" Fong Ping said in a low voice, "This is not what I want to see. Moreover, even if he really does it, he may not be able to bring life to the human race." I know. Heaven-subduing King sighed, looked at the sky, changed the topic, and said, "The Divine Emperor and Do are actually gambling. They are gambling that you are strong and will attack the Celestial Emperor or them. Obviously, they are confident that it is the Celestial Emperor. This is because the problem with the immortal source is here. If the immortal source is not broken, nothing else can be discussed. And the truth is indeed so. We must destroy the immortal source. However, if we destroy the immortal source, the Celestial Emperor will definitely stop us and attack. Therefore, these two bastards are smart. I'm afraid they still want to take advantage of the situation." As he said that, he continued, "Moreover, the Celestial Emperor will not attack them. If he does, he will push them to our side. He would rather they sit back and do nothing than force them to fall to us. In addition, they are stationed at the source land. The Celestial Emperor will not mess up his camp at this time." Fong Ping nodded slightly, did not speak, and played with a jade pendant in his hand. This was the last of the three treasures of the earthly emperor. He did not know what the earthly emperor left in the jade pendant. The crystal ball was the Tao fruit. That was the life of the earthly emperor. The jade sword was the strongest attack left by the earthly emperor. What about the jade pendant? Fong Ping played with it for a while and crushed the jade pendant. In his mind, the voice of the earthly emperor sounded again. His laughter was very domineering. "Ha ha, I am back again." The image of the earthly emperor appeared in Fong Ping's mind. He laughed for a while and began to speak. Fong Ping listened quietly. Beside him, although the Heaven-subduing King did not know what Fong Ping was doing, he could roughly guess. After a long time, Fong Ping exhaled softly, smiled, and looked up at the sky again. The three realms merged into one. In the chaos, the human continent quickly stabilized and even began the reconstruction work. Under the compression and collision of the continents, countless buildings collapsed. However, at this time, the reconstruction work began. The catacombs and beginner martial artists could not understand at all. At this time, it was a matter of life and death whether they could survive or not, yet the humans were still carrying out the reconstruction work. Not only that in the human world, order was restored, classes resumed, children continued to go to school, and other industries began to resume their normal work. At the border of the continent, the human military martial artists increased and began to strengthen the defense line to prevent the catacombs and beginner martial artists from rushing in. Separated by the Mount Royal Sea defense line, on one side were corpses everywhere, and on the other side was the still prosperous human world. The powerhouses watched from the sky. In contrast, there was some indescribable complexity. Was there any meaning in maintaining this false prosperity in the human world at this time? Maybe in a few months, maybe in a few days, the three realms might turn into ruins. At this time, rebuilding and maintaining the normal social order was not only time-consuming, it was also very meaningless. The catacombs powerhouses did not understand, and the beginner martial powerhouses did not understand. Even if the beginner martial artists were not as chaotic as the catacombs, it was not to the point where they had to maintain the normal order at this time. In times of great chaos, not only natural disasters, but also man-made disasters. Faced with the danger of the world being destroyed, countless people went crazy. Even in the Chu Wu continent, wars were breaking out continuously at this moment. Vengeance for vengeance, vengeance for vengeance. Killing, plundering, massacring cities to vent, these things were happening all the time. Some powerhouses could not stay calm in the face of such a crisis. Some people had already gone crazy. In addition, there were no powerhouses to restrain them at this moment. These people had already gone crazy. They lived day by day and did all kinds of evil. Even in the human world, there were crazy powerhouses who wanted to kill over. However, after old Zhang killed two saints, the situation improved a little. However, the situation of catacombs powerhouses killing over to the Chu Wu continent and beginner martial powerhouses killing over to the catacombs continent was constantly happening. Darkness and turmoil far surpassed what it was 8,000 years ago. Even the chaotic era 8,000 years ago was not as good as this moment. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, the chaos continued, and it even began to spread to a larger area. As it became easier to comprehend the origin Dao, a large number of origin powerhouses began to break through. Breakthroughs were also accompanied by the snatching and killing of resources. There were even people who proved their heavenly kings and wanted to go further and began to attack beginner martial artists. There were also many heavenly kings in the beginner martial world, but they were also unwilling to be robbed. Powerhouses from both sides in the Bitter Sea area broke out many heavenly king battles, and even heavenly kings began to fall. Powerhouses more and more. Rank 9 more and more. That sun seemed to be getting brighter and brighter. The immortal source was constantly maturing and growing. Fang Ping was still guarding the celestial dividing line. Zhang Tao had already begun to assign tasks, and orders were passed down in all directions. Not only that, Zhang Tao began to intervene in the other 2 continents. At this moment, the powerhouses of the 2 continents, however, did not have the energy to care about these. Just yesterday, King Qian and Feng wanted to ambush Illusion, and both sides broke out in a fight, including Wan and Stonewall. They also began to wander over at the beginner martial world. Obviously, these 2 also wanted to prove their path as emperors. Although they all knew that proving their path as emperors might cause them to die faster, no one was willing to give up at this time. Capital City, Old Zhang's old nest. At this moment, old Zhang stood by the window looking at the faraway land. The black dot floating in the air, ordinary people could not see it at all, but he could sense where Fang Ping was. Fang Ping had been staying there, floating in the air, suppressing the origin land. Yes, Fong Ping was right under the origin land, not giving the emperors a chance to intervene in the three realms. Previously, celestial emperors seemed to want to continue to push the Three Realms War. Let the powerhouses who broke eight continue to fight, but the voice transmission was broken by Fong Ping, and both sides almost broke out into war. Father, a call, woke Zhang Tao up. He turned his head to look at his son, who had just returned not long ago, smiled, and said softly, "How's the mission going?" Zhang Wu, also known as Hua Qidao, glanced at Zhang Tao, saw the exhaustion in his eyes, and also saw his helplessness. Sighing softly in his heart, Zhang Wu said, "It's going very well. Everyone is very supportive of father's decision," but Zhang Wu paused and said softly, "Are you really not going to tell Minister Fong? I'm afraid that when the time comes, he will—" Zhang Tao waved his hand, smiled, and said, "Who does he think he is? I'm King Wu, the current emperor. Moreover, the human race does not belong to him alone. Fighting alone, it's not his turn to be a hero." Zhang Tao smiled and said again, "Does everyone have any objections?" Zhang Wu said in a low voice, "They know what father means, and they also understand what their responsibilities are. Neo-martial artists may not be strong enough, but the neo-martial spirit will not be forgotten." Neo-martial spirit? Zhang Tao looked out the window, smiled, and laughed a little self-deprecatingly. Neo-martial spirit. That's just something I used to fool everyone after I became the minister, and they all took it seriously. People are so stupid, fooling them however they want. This shouldn't have been their war. Father, Zhang Wu said in a low voice, "This is not your responsibility, nor is it Minister Fong's. This is everyone's. We only hate that we're not strong enough, that we can't face the enemy head-on, but we are also willing to contribute, to forge this era together, to let this era last forever." Difficult. Zhang Tao sighed, looking at the tiny black dot, and murmured, "But it's already reached this point. It's not bad." Zhang Wu said no more. After a moment, someone came directly through the air, and Li Zhen appeared instantly. Seeing Zhang Wu, he did not say anything, looked at Zhang Tao, and said in a low voice, "I've already made arrangements in the military. Everyone supports your decision." As he said that, Li Zhen hesitated and said, "But I didn't make arrangements in MCMAU. Do you?" MCMAU. Old Zhang smiled, shook his head slowly, and said, "I won't make arrangements in MCMAU. That kid is very protective. If he really finds out, he'll come after me. It's okay not to use MCMAU." "Yes, I understand," Li Zhen responded, and then said with a light laugh, "Speaking of which, Yunyue and I are also considered Emperor Path, right? Even if not, we're still Emperor Path, right? And Wu Chuan, Zhang Weiyu, have you forgotten about us? You—" Old Zhang turned his head and glanced at him. After a while, he sneered and said, "Don't say that. You can't afford to lose face like this. Emperor Path and Emperor are not as weak as you, and you have the nerve to say that. If it were me, I'd be too embarrassed to say this now." Li Zhen's face turned green. He was looking down on him too much. This bastard was exactly the same as Fong Ping. Neither of them were good people. Chapter 1473. Kill. The sound of killing shook the sky. On the fifth day of the three realms merging into one, Zhang Tao negotiated with the catacombs and Chu Wu several times, but he did not get a definite answer. The so-called negotiation was to restore peace between the two places. Killing was not allowed. However, in this apocalypse, who would care? Even if King Qian and the rest agreed, they could not suppress the entire catacombs and Chu Wu. At this time, these martial artists had gone crazy, knowing that they could die at any time. The people's hearts were scattered. In addition, the catacombs was a place where martial arts were respected. Killing was common. Why would they care about King Qian and the rest? If Li Zhu or Hong Yu were here, they might be able to suppress it. However, the Ji family was destroyed. Li Zhu and the rest were dead. In the catacombs, Feng and King Qian were considered outsiders, who would listen to their orders. Just as chaos broke out on both sides, a strong army of the human race began to cross the imperial sea mountain to suppress the chaos. Yes, suppress. The humans chose this time to suppress the riot, kill the rank 9 and above thugs. This was the military order passed by Zhang Tao and Li Zhen. Kill. Their main target was the rank 9 and above martial artists. Any martial artists who continued to cause chaos had to be killed, including Desperate Realm, Emperor level. They were all on the list. Li Changsheng, Wang Jinyang, Li Hansong, Yao Qingjun, Li Zhen, War King, Jiang Hao. These people were all generals who led the troops. You had no choice but to obey. Even if King Qian and the rest dared to cause trouble, they would be killed immediately. As for Chu Wu, the humans were not so tough. In the name of cooperating with Chu Wu, they stationed an army with many powerhouses. The God Creation envoy even personally guarded Chu Wu. There were also many source martial artists in Chu Wu. This army of the human race was also responsible for killing the rioters. Origin martial artists of rank 9 and above must be killed if anyone tried to create chaos. This was a mission that Zhang Tao personally arranged when he met some powerhouses, or rather, a military order. No matter who stopped them, they could be killed. The catacombs, Demon Court. At this moment, several Break 8 powerhouses were here. The Demon Emperor sat on the throne and listened to the report from a great demon below. Today, the human powerhouses had killed more than 100 demons above rank 9. The Demon Emperor frowned and didn't say a word. After the Demon Emperor chased away the great demon who wanted to seek revenge, King Qian sighed and said, "The humans are trying to delay the time for the celestial source to mature." The Demon Emperor's grade 9 powerhouses somewhat bitter. Had been killed in the Earth domain when he's faced with the turmoil of the three realms and the crisis of the human race. The demon race leadership was harder to control than the human race. The three realms. There were many demons in the sea of bitterness and many experts. Not all the demons went to the demon court. Now, these demons had landed in various places and stirred up a bloodbath. The human race did not care about this. They ordered the demon court to restrain the demons. If they could not restrain them, the human race would suppress the chaos and prevent the three realms from being in chaos. However, the Demon Emperor did not have the mood to suppress them. Moreover, unless he did it himself, he could not suppress them. There was chaos everywhere. Helpless, he could only let the humans enter the catacombs and the sea of bitterness. In a short period of time, many martial artists and demons were killed. It was not just the grade 9 demons. Even 5 desperation demons were killed. The Demon Emperor sighed and said slowly, "There's no way to stop this. Even if we look for the Dragon Emperor, he won't care. The humans have made up their mind to delay the time for the celestial source to mature. If we stop them, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape death." After saying that, he continued, "Not only that, we want to prove our Tao. At this moment, we don't have to be careful of the Celestial Emperor and the others. We have to be careful of the humans. To prevent the celestial source from maturing and stabilizing the source, they will definitely stop us." Everyone looked at each other. Feng smiled and said, "Actually, it's not that there's no way. If we cut off our Tao on the celestial source, the humans will naturally not care whether we prove our Tao or not." The Demon Emperor smiled bitterly. How could it be so simple? The Celestial Emperor was personally suppressing the celestial source. Cut off Tao? Where could it be cut off? The Demon Emperor did not continue on this topic. He looked at the few of them and said softly, "Although the humans have killed many rank 9 and above martial artists, the killing rate is not as fast as the birth rate. Many martial artists were previously stuck at rank 7 and 8. In just a few days, they have broken through to rank 9. If this goes on, I'm worried that the humans will disregard everything and kill a large number of powerhouses, even including us. The Celestial Emperor will not agree to this." King Qian said in a low voice, "The Celestial Emperor wants to use the celestial source to repair the source ground. He will not allow the humans to attack us. The humans are not doing much now. They have not killed many rank 9 martial artists. However, once the humans start a massacre, the Celestial Emperor will definitely stop them." Now, many rank 9 martial artists had died, but the effect was not great. This was because there were tens of billions of humans and demons in the catacombs, beginner martial artists, and demons. Every day, there would be a large number of people breaking through to the celestial source. What I'm afraid of is that it's too far away. The monster emperor heaved a sigh. He looked outside the hall. He could not see the dark shadow, but he seemed to know that the shadow was there. He said softly, "He is suppressing the celestial source. Not even the Celestial Emperor will recklessly fight him now." Previously, the earthly sovereign's school helped him, allowing him to become the second source ground and leave. Now, how strong is he? Before, he was not as strong as the earthly sovereign, but he was comparable to the human sovereign. Now, I'm afraid he has the combat strength of East Sovereign, or even stronger. The monster emperor said softly, "The Celestial Emperor still needs to suppress the source ground and keep the Emperor God and the Emperor of Heaven Reverse in check. Unless the humans really start a massacre, otherwise the Celestial Emperor will not choose to fight Fang Ping on such a small scale. Once the fight starts, the 3 realms will be affected. The celestial source is not mature yet. The Celestial Emperor will lose more than he gains." The few of them felt a little bitter when they heard this. Right now, they were very worried that they would become the target of the human race. Killing 1 rank 8 martial artist was more useful than killing 1,000 rank 9 martial artists. After a moment of silence, the monster emperor said, "I have invited the Heavenly King of Water Force and Heavenly King of Infinite Force to be the left and right Heavenly Kings of the Monster Court. I have also sent someone to inform the Dragon Emperor that I am willing to change the name of the Monster Court to the Dragon Court. If the humans really want to make a move, they will have to think twice." "Kunping, you are very decisive." Feng complimented, inviting the 2 from the Water Force Island to be the left and right Heavenly Kings of the Monster Court, and changing the name of the Monster Court to the Dragon Court, were all things that the humans were worried about. After all, the 3 of them had always been working with the humans. King Qian did not care. He sighed. "Even if the humans are worried, they will not let us go. Let's be careful. Now, the source ground is the safest. If we can succeed and enter the source ground, the Celestial Emperor will protect us." This was their only hope right now. Otherwise, if this went on, the humans would really attack them. They did not do it now because they were worried about the Celestial Emperor. The Celestial Emperor did not dare to act rashly, and neither did Fang Ping. Otherwise, if a war broke out, the 3 realms would be destroyed. Neither side would be happy. The few of them discussed for a while. They were all frowning and at their wits' end. Under the current situation, they did not dare to prove their Tao. Even if they did, they had to kill the supreme new martial artists. There were only 3 supreme new martial artists. None of them were to be trifled with. Who should they kill? Even if they killed them, they might not succeed in proving their Tao. At this moment, King Qian said in a low voice, "Why don't we instigate Luan and Sherpa to kill the supreme new martial artists? We'll see if we have a chance. Even if we don't, we can help them kill the supreme new martial artists. Let's see if Fong Ping and the rest will stop them when they prove their Tao." After saying that, King Qian said in a low voice, "If Luan and Sherpa prove their Tao, it will be a blow to the humans. When that happens, the humans will not have time to care about us." The few of them looked at each other. This was a good idea. Luan and Sherpa had helped the humans before. The new martial artists worked with the humans. But now, did Luan and Sherpa want to prove their Tao? Needless to say, did they want to kill the new martial artists? They definitely wanted to. If that was the case, who would the humans help when both sides fought? At most, they would not help either side. But if Luan and Sherpa won and proved their Tao, when that happened, the humans would not have time to care about them. As long as Luan and Sherpa messed around a few more times, the humans would not care about them at all. The powerhouses in the catacombs were discussing. The human army was suppressing all directions, killing powerhouses from all directions. In the source ground, at this moment, there were fewer and fewer people in the source ground. In the world where Spirit Emperor was, since the three realms merged, Spirit Emperor did not need to suppress the source ground anymore. The Celestial Emperor personally suppressed it. In this heaven, there was a small courtyard. In the small courtyard, Spirit Emperor was cultivating. She suddenly opened her eyes and said indifferently, "Since you're here, why don't you show yourself?" The next moment, Dong Huang's figure appeared. Looking at Spirit Emperor, he sighed softly and said, "Are you all right?" Spirit Emperor glanced at him and did not say anything. She closed her eyes and continued to cultivate. Dong Huang looked at her and said after a long time, "Why don't I think of a way to send you out of the source ground? The cat is still in the human world. You did not kill the humans. Fong Ping and the rest will not make things difficult for you. No need." Spirit Emperor shouted softly. She opened her eyes and looked at him with a frown. She said coldly, "If you came to say this, you can leave now." Dong Huang looked at her and sighed again after a while. "All these years, you've changed to a stranger. The three realms is about to be destroyed. Cheong and Do have the heart to destroy the three realms. It's not just them. The Celestial Emperor and Fong Ping are the same. They've all been driven crazy. Destroying the three realms and destroying the source ground might be the next outcome. At this time, nothing you do will change anything. Why do you have to do this? You might as well find a place to be quiet for a few days and wait for the three realms to be destroyed." Spirit Emperor did not say anything. Dong Huang continued, "In the past, your father entrusted you to me and told you not to participate in the battle of the myriad Tao. Unfortunately, at that time, I was busy with the matter of proving my Tao. I never thought that the Celestial Emperor would accept you as a disciple. I thought that I could take care of you as a brother and sister from the same sect, who knew that this was a path of no return." Dong Huang sighed again. In the past, the tribe that Spirit Emperor was in was also a large tribe. Her father was also one of the ancient powerhouses. Although he was not comparable to the Celestial Emperor and the others, he was also very powerful back then. Of course, compared to the Celestial Emperor, and how there was still a big gap. Dong Huang had known Spirit Emperor's father since a long time ago. In the Battle of the Myriad Tao, Spirit Emperor's tribe was destroyed. Before Spirit Emperor's father died, he entrusted his daughter to his good friend, Hao. This was the reason why Dong Huang had taken care of Spirit Emperor many times, including in the mystic realm. Giving the protective divine artifact to Spirit Emperor's clone was all because of the relationship of the past. Now, Dong Huang did not want Spirit Emperor to continue participating in the battle of the three realms. After being trapped for 8,000 years, even going out for a walk was good. Spirit Emperor did not say anything and remained silent. Dong Huang continued, If you want to leave, I can find Fang Ping and Wang Jinyang and get them to open the passage to let you leave. Wang Jinyang owes me a favor. The cat is still in the human race. Fang Ping will not refuse. No need. Spirit, Dong Huang frowned and said softly, the chaos is coming. The immortal source will mature soon. If you stay, once the source collapses, then I'll just die. Spirit Emperor's voice was cold. Now, I'm neither a human nor a ghost. Why care about life and death? Dong Huang tried to persuade her, but Spirit Emperor ignored him. Seeing her determination, Dong Huang could not help but say, tell me, what do you want to do? Even if Celestial Emperor has a master-disciple relationship with you, all these years, he has repaid what he should. Back then, he let you step on the origin path. He did not have good intentions. You are not stupid. You should have seen it long ago. You are just one of his pawns, not a disciple he dotes on. Do you really want to die with him? Celestial Emperor will die? Spirit Emperor said coldly. His strength is stronger than you think. How can he die? Back then, Sun God only absorbed 1/10 of the energy. Today, Celestial Emperor has absorbed half of the energy. Even if the source land has been damaged repeatedly, he is still stronger than you think. Fang Ping and the others want to kill Celestial Emperor? Dream on. Obviously, she did not think that Fang Ping and the others could win. Even with the Divine Emperor and Do restraining him, it would not be that easy to win against Celestial Emperor. Now, the Sun God had disappeared. If the Sun God was here, there would be some hope if they joined forces. The Sun God is missing. I'm afraid it was entangled by the seed. If there is no accident, it was his idea. Spirit Emperor looked at Dong Huang and said indifferently, he is not afraid of you joining forces. He is just waiting for the immortal source to mature. No one can stop him, unless you choose to destroy the world. Even so, you will be the ones to die, not him. At most, he will wait a few more years for the second immortal source to mature, and those of you who oppose him will not live. Dong Huang frowned slightly. When he fought with Sun God in the early years, he was only slightly better and did not completely gain the upper hand. In ancient times, Celestial Emperor was not as good as Sun God. After absorbing the source land, Celestial Emperor was stronger than Sun God, which was why he could destroy Sun God's small world. However, he was only slightly better. Spirit Emperor had underestimated Sun God and Fang Ping, right? Spirit Emperor sneered and was too lazy to speak. Dong Huang frowned slightly and looked at her. What do you know? Spirit Emperor did not speak. Spirit, in the early years, you have been by his side. Did you discover something? Spirit Emperor still did not speak. However, after a while, he snorted coldly and said, I was a witness to the battle when he defeated Sun God's small world. He was indeed only slightly better than Sun God, and he used the power of the seed to suppress Sun God. As he spoke, Spirit Emperor's voice suddenly became a little low. But I was there back then, and I know more than you. At that time, the seed did not help him suppress the source land. Huh. Dong Huang was shocked. What did he mean? Soon, Dong Huang's expression changed. The seed. At that time, it did not help Celestial Emperor suppress the source land. Then, didn't that mean that Celestial Emperor had suppressed the crack in the source land in the past? At the same time, Celestial Emperor had also defeated Sun God. How could that be? Dong Huang was a little shocked. Wasn't the crack he suppressed fake? Fake. Spirit Emperor looked at him and said indifferently, who said it was fake? It's true. He was the one who suppressed the crack in the source land, including the crack left behind by Sun God. Therefore, when he defeated Sun God back then, he did not use his full strength. He suppressed the crack while fighting Sun God. Sun God thought that he used the power of the seed to defeat him, so he did not take him seriously at all. Little did he know that he had long surpassed him. Dong Huang frowned and looked at Spirit Emperor. After a long time, he sighed. I understand. After another moment of silence, Dong Huang said slowly, Are you really not leaving? No need. If that's the case, I won't persuade you anymore. When the battle starts, don't act recklessly. Follow me. No need. Dong Huang tried to persuade him a few times, but in the end, it turned into a sigh. His figure dissipated and disappeared from this place. After he left, Spirit Emperor continued to cultivate with his eyes closed. Earth. Fang Ping kept doing some experiments, such as moving people to their own source land and sealing the source land to see if there was any effect. The results proved that the origin Tao could not be cut off. As for whether it could isolate the seed, he could not test it out. And if he let people break through in their own source land, in the end, their own source land did not respond. The breakthrough was still the origin Tao, still the Tao in the outside world. The second source land is not that sealed off. Fang Ping murmured in his heart. It might have something to do with the instability of the source land. This also led to the fact that when people were moved in, they still had to break through the origin Tao instead of opening up another Tao in their own world. Fang Ping did not continue experimenting. He looked at his own source world again. The source world was still expanding. This was because in the past few days, a large number of cities on Earth had been integrated by him again. Fang Ping alone guarded the heavens and Earth. The humans all knew where Fang Ping was. In the past few days, there were cities constantly taking the initiative to integrate into Fang Ping's source land. However, at this time, Fang Ping felt a huge bottleneck. The source land that had integrated thousands of cities now seemed to have really reached a limit, a diameter of 99,999 meters. According to the actual size, Fang Ping's source world had an area of close to 80 square kilometers, close to the size of a district. As for the source land, it was actually condensed. When people entered it, it was like Fang Ping entering the Heaven Destroyer Emperor's source world. This world would be magnified infinitely. Therefore, in Fang Ping's source world, there were thousands of cities integrated. However, even after integrating so many cities, Fang Ping still could not break through the bottleneck. In the past few days after integrating dozens of cities again, the source land seemed to have reached its limit. There was no movement at all. Fang Ping had encountered a bottleneck. It was not just a bottleneck. He even felt that if he continued to integrate, his source land might not be able to withstand it and would collapse. The source land is unstable. This problem became Fang Ping's trouble again. In the sky, the sun was getting brighter and brighter. Fang Ping knew that this was a sign that the immortal source was about to mature. Fang Ping felt slightly anxious. He could not let the immortal source mature. If it matured, it meant that all the martial artists who were controlled would die and become the source of energy for Celestial Emperor's source land. Therefore, before the immortal source matured, whether Fang Ping could find a way or not, he had to attack the immortal source. The sun god is trapped by the seed. I can only rely on myself to think of a way. Just as Fang Ping was thinking about this, in the sky, a figure suddenly appeared. The figure shot toward him. Fang Ping's expression changed. He did not attack. After a while, the figure walked out of the sun and walked to Fang Ping's side. Sitting cross-legged opposite Fang Ping, Qin Fengqing chuckled and said, I'm suffocating. Do you have wine? Fang Ping tossed a jar of wine over. Qin Fengqing opened it and drank. Then he smiled and said, I didn't want to come. Celestial Emperor forced me to come. He asked me to pass on a few words. Speak. If I say it, don't slash me. Fang Ping frowned. Qin Fengqing laughed dryly. I just passed on a message and came down to take a breather. That fellow said, Do you still want the few from the source land? Book fragrance, heavenly dog, dragon transformation, including me, I can give them all to you. Fong Ping frowned. Qin Fengqing coughed dryly and continued, but Celestial Emperor wants you to break the Tao of the three emperors. He said he doesn't want to wait anymore, and he doesn't want to play hide and seek with you anymore. Previously, he hoped that you guys could help him replenish the source land. In the end, you guys made trouble and didn't cooperate. Anyway, that's what he meant. Right now, the few of us are in the source land. The Tao fruits can't leave either. If Celestial Emperor wants to attack us, the Divine Emperor and Celestial Emperor Reverse can't stop him. That's why he wants to use the few of us to exchange for Old Wang. And the other two's Tao, Fong Ping snorted. You, ahem. Anyway, it's the same to take 3 or 4. Can't you take one more? Qin Fengqing chuckled. Do you think this business is worthwhile? 3 emperors Tao in exchange for 4 emperors. Should he? Breaking the 3 emperors Tao might not necessarily kill them. However, breaking the 3 emperors Tao would reduce the loopholes in Celestial Emperor's source land. Among the 3 emperors Tao, Celestial Emperor Zhan's Tao might have been exposed. It might even be located by Celestial Emperor. However, the other 2 had not been exposed until now. It seemed like Celestial Emperor did not want to look for another opportunity. This time, he was very straightforward, using people to exchange. For people for 3 Tao, should he trade or not? As for what would happen to them if they did not agree, Fong Ping could imagine. Among them, the strongest was only 60 to 70 million Cal vitality. Going against Celestial Emperor was courting death. Moreover, they were at the source land. Celestial Emperor could control the source land. In this way, if Fong Ping did not agree, they might be killed. Fong Ping's gaze was cold. Celestial Emperor was forcing him to make a choice. For emperors, should he trade? If he wanted, he would break the 3 emperors' Tao. If he did not, he would kill these 4 people. The immortal source was about to mature. Celestial Emperor did not need to leave behind any hidden dangers. Both parties' focus was on the immortal source. Not far away, Old Wang tread on the air and sat down cross-legged beside the 2 of them. He smiled and said, "Break our Tao. How about the few of you?" "Yes. Ask Celestial Emperor if he doesn't trade you. Is that okay?" "Don't." Qin Fengqing said pitifully, "I'm miserable enough now. I'm under multiple leadership. The seed leads me, Celestial Emperor leads me. If the Emperor dies, if he doesn't die, there's still him. I'm so miserable. Count me in." Old Wang smiled and looked at Fong Ping. "What do you think? Is it more beneficial to keep 3 Tao or to trade for 4 of them? If he left 3 Tao, Celestial Emperor would not be able to completely seal the source. That meant that even if he absorbed the immortal source, he would not be able to achieve the 20% increase. However, if the Tao was really broken and the 3 Tao were broken, then Celestial Emperor would absorb the immortal source and refine it. Celestial Emperor would be ridiculously powerful. In the blink of an eye, Heavenly King, subduing, came through the air and said in a low voice, "No, Fong Ping, I know you have a sharp tongue but a soft heart. After all, Xu Xiang and the others have helped us. You're not willing to give them up now, but if we break the 3 emperors' Tao, even if Wang Jinyang and the others don't die, Celestial Emperor will have no worries. When that time comes, he can focus on dealing with the immortal source. Now, we still have confidence, but once 3 Tao are broken, we won't even have the capital to restrain Celestial Emperor." He did not agree. Even if this decision was cruel, he still did not agree. To be honest, the 4 emperors were not very powerful. In terms of value, they were not as valuable as the 3 emperors' Tao. Moreover, in the big picture, the three emperors' Tao was more useful. Qin Fengqing came down and sensed not only them. Not long after, old Zhang also came. When he heard this, he could not help but frown. Celestial Emperor was no longer hiding in the dark. He was straightforward and used the four emperors to exchange for three Tao. This was a dilemma, giving up on Xu Xiang, and the others. This was not an ordinary martial artist. The four emperors, whether it was Xu Xiang or dragon transformation, had always been helping the human race, including Heavenly Hound. As for Qin Fengqing, this guy was running here and there. Speaking of which, he had never attacked the human race. It was not appropriate to abandon him as a traitor. It was difficult for the four of them to give up. But breaking the three emperors' Tao was also a difficult choice, regardless of whether Wang Jinyang and the others would die. Even if they did not, this would solve Celestial Emperor's worries. This was also a huge loss. At that time, Celestial Emperor would have more energy to deal with Fang Ping and the Divine Emperor. Fang Ping's eyes flickered. After a while, he said, "Break the Tao, or give up on the four of them." Everyone looked at him. If Celestial Emperor swallows the immortal source, most of the human race will be destroyed. At that time, there is no difference whether the Tao is broken or not. Break the Tao and stop him from swallowing the immortal source, then he still can't seal the source. As soon as this was said, Heavenly King Zhen wanted to say something but stopped. Obviously, Fang Ping meant to break the Tao. Then he was just about to say something when Fang Ping exhaled and said, "Break the Tao, old Wang, and the others may die." Wang Jinyang smiled and said, "In exchange for the four emperors, it's actually still worth it. Not worth it." Fang Ping's tone was cold. The next moment, he said in a low voice, "My strength can't be improved anymore." "Heavenly King Zhen, what about you?" Heavenly King Zhen frowned. "I'm afraid it's also difficult." "Old Zhang, what about you?" Zhang Tao frowned and shook his head. "I've improved a lot these few days, but if I want to improve again, it will not be a matter of a few months." "So, we've reached our limit," Fang Ping murmured. "Since we've reached our limit, actually, it's meaningless to wait. If the immortal source is about to mature, and he swallows it carelessly, then the loss will outweigh the gain." As soon as these words came out, their hearts trembled. Old Zhang's eyes flickered, and he said in a low voice, "You want to fight the final battle?" Fang Ping said that there was no point in dragging it out. Indeed, there was not much point. Previously, the delay was to let the human race improve, to let everyone become stronger. But now, if it dragged on, the four emperors might be killed. Fang Ping's eyes flickered. Take this opportunity to attack the source and save the four emperors. With the reason of breaking the Tao, open three Tao. Qin Fengqing, the four of you want to escape the source. Did the Celestial Emperor agree to provide you with the power to leave with the Tao fruits? Yes. Qin Fengqing's eyes also flickered. The Celestial Emperor said that he can unlock the restrictions of the Tao fruits so that we can leave with the Tao fruits. He should be using the power of the seeds to fill those cracks so that we can leave with the Tao fruits. Then let the Celestial Emperor unlock the restrictions of your Tao fruits first. When the three Tao are opened, you guys leave with the Tao fruits, and we'll attack. Fang Ping looked at the sun in the sky and murmured, "There's no need to wait anymore. If we wait any longer, the result will be the same. I can't improve now. Everyone is the same. If that's the case, then let's fight." Fight. He did not know how long his source could last, but now the Celestial Emperor was already impatient. He even used the people in the source to threaten him. If Fang Ping did not compromise, he would either kill the four of them or break the Tao of the three emperors. This was not worth it. Then he might as well be more straightforward and fight now. Zhang Tao and the others looked at each other, their gazes gradually becoming determined. That was true. At this point, there was really no way to delay it anymore. Then, fight. P.S. There are only 2 chapters left. It's a pity that I can't see this chapter. I don't know if there are any suggestions. If you can't see it, then forget it. The battle is about to begin. The end is near. Brothers, vote some monthly votes. See if the data can be better. Chapter 1474. The Three Realms Continent. The killing continued. The magic martial army station deep in the catacombs received a secret order today. In a blood-stained basilica, Wu Quishan summoned the powerhouses. When everyone was present, Wu Quishan's expression was solemn. He tossed out a crystal ball, sealing the area. Tang Feng and the others who had just entered looked at Wu Quishan. The magic martial army was now one of the strongest armies of the human race. Countless powerhouses. There were close to 100 powerhouses at the top. In this catacombs, the magic martial army was also the main force to suppress the catacombs. Wu Quishan had just achieved Heavenly King 2 days ago. Compared to those veteran powerhouses, he was naturally not as good. However, there were not many Heavenly King powerhouses in the Three Realms. Everyone is here. Wu Quishan looked at everyone and said in a low voice, "Just now, the military department sent an order, a secret order." Everyone's expression turned solemn. Wu Quishan took a deep breath, as if he was slightly uneasy. Very quickly, he suppressed the throbbing in his heart and said in a low voice, "The military department orders. Once the source is in turmoil, the magic martial army will deploy troops and kill martial artists above rank 9. Kill them all." Everyone was shocked. Kill martial artists above rank 9. There was no prefix. Before this, it was all about killing the powerhouses in turmoil. Wu Quishan seemed to know what they were thinking. He said in a low voice, "That's all. Kill them all. Whether it's the catacombs, the demons, or the beginners we encounter. As long as they are not humans, kill them all." Everyone, the source is in turmoil. I'm afraid. That will be the time for the final battle. This military order is only known to everyone. On the battlefield, execute the military order. Remember, don't be lenient. Yes. Everyone responded one after another, a little solemn. Kill martial artists above rank 9, all of them. There was no need to distinguish whether they were creating chaos or not. No need to distinguish whether there was a need to stay. Everyone knew what Wu Quishan meant. They also knew the meaning of the secret order from the military department. They were going to break the immortal source. Wu Quishan saw everyone's solemn expression and exhaled. Everyone, now that things have come to this, we can't participate in the source battle. Fighting in the catacombs is to assist Fang Ping and Minister Zhang. If we are lenient and Heavenly Emperor succeeds, the human race will face the threat of extinction. Understood. Everyone shouted in a low voice. All right, everyone get ready. There are quite a number of martial artists above the Paragon level in the catacombs now. Tang Feng, Feng Gru, Zhao Xuemei, Fu Chongding, Chun Yinshi. Wu Quishan called out names one by one. We'll form a team and specialize in hunting down martial artists who are at the top of the catacombs. If Fang Ping and the others lose, we'll all die together. If they win, the humans will unify the Three Realms and kill all these powerhouses. It'll also be beneficial to unify the catacombs continent. Wu Quishan looked at the crowd, and they nodded, their eyes bloodshot. Previously, everyone was only suppressing those who were causing trouble. Now, it seemed that the critical moment had arrived. Kill without mercy. The experts didn't make a sound, but their eyes were bloodshot. Then, let's just kill them. Fang Ping in midair. Old Wang and the others looked at Fang Ping. Old Wang pondered for a moment and said, "We also have the power to break through 9 levels now. Although we are no match for Celestial Emperor and the others, if we join forces, it should not be a problem for us to stop Spirit Sovereign for a while. Leave the Spirit Emperor to us." Fang Ping looked at them and said in a low voice, "Your mission is to maintain the opening of the passageway and escort the others to leave. There's no need for so many people in the source." "Fang Ping," Old Wang said in a low voice, "if you lose, then everything will be for naught. It's better to stay in the source together. Either you win or you lose and get killed together. Do you think we have any other choice?" Ironhead also said in a low voice, "Yes, Fang Ping, if you lose, we'll all die. Why not take a gamble? Can't you still integrate? We have the power to break through 9 levels now. When the time comes to integrate, we can more or less increase your combat strength." On the other side, the God-forging envoy threw an invisible ball to Fang Ping and said with a smile, "The problem of charging has been solved. However, we are not the 3 emperors. The energy charged is not much. You can use it as you see fit. Actually, Wang Jinyang and the others are right. If you lose, then all of you will lose. If that's the case, then it's better to take a gamble. If we really lose, then we'll die together." Fang Ping wanted to fight Celestial Emperor alone in the source, with Heavenly King subduing and the others letting Old Wang and the others escort the others away. However, everyone felt that even if they left, they would not be able to survive. Celestial Emperor would not let them go. Fang Ping frowned and looked at the God-forging envoy. The God-forging envoy smiled and said, "I left behind the starry sky world. This divine artifact is not small. It's not a problem to hide a few thousand people. Soon, those people will enter. When the time comes, they will be exiled into the void. There are no powerhouses with the divine artifact concealing their auras. If they are lucky, Celestial Emperor will not be able to find them. Moreover, Celestial Emperor may not be able to find them. It's just a group of weaklings. There isn't even a single person at the peak." The plan to retain the seed was still activated. There were not many people, 3,000 people. They would all enter a divine artifact forged by the God-forging envoy to live. The divine artifact would be thrown into the endless void. There were no powerhouses in it. As for whether they could survive in the end, it would all depend on luck. It depended on whether Celestial Emperor would search for it. The premise was that Celestial Emperor won. Fang Ping was silent. He glanced at the few of them. After a while, he said in a low voice, "Then that's it." After saying that, he exhaled softly and said, "You guys go back and prepare first. I'll go take a look." "Look at what?" He looked at his family that was about to leave the 3 realms. Although his origin had been forged successfully, it was not stable. Once the war started, Fang Ping's origin would definitely be shaken or even collapse. When that time came, it would harm everyone instead. Therefore, Fang Ping did not let anyone move to his origin at this moment. It was safer to stay in the 3 realms. Star Town, a divine artifact that looked like a huge shuttle, appeared in front of a group of young people. At this moment, the door opened, but no one stepped forward. "I'm not leaving. I want to see my brother." A choked voice was heard. In front of the crowd, Fang Yuan's eyes were red. He refused to enter. "I'm not leaving. I'm also a martial artist. I want to wait for my brother to come back. Don't mess around." Beside him, Old Man Li, who was in charge of this matter, was no longer tolerant. He no longer had a smile on his face. He berated, "Fang Yuan, this is an order from all the human powerhouses. Military order, execute." "Grandpa Li," Fang Yuan's tears flowed. "I don't want to leave. Where can I go? My parents are still here. My brother is still here. Grandpa Lee, where can I go? Go in. Old Manly shouted softly. Where to? He did not know. From now on, these people would live in this divine artifact. There were huge amounts of materials, resources, martial arts secret manuals, energy stones, all kinds of treasures. These things had been placed inside. Break the void and place the divine artifact inside. It would flow and wander with space. Where to? He did not know. Was it still within the three realms? He did not know. This was humanity's hope, the last hope. As for whether they could destroy the seeds after they left, it was no longer a consideration. After defeating Celestial Emperor, they could still find them. If they could not defeat Celestial Emperor, then destroying the seeds would become a joke. Naturally, there was no need to search for them. They were the last hope. It was not the hope for revenge. It was the hope that the powerhouses wanted to keep the human race alive. It was a group of young people. They were very young. There were even some children. There were no elders. Even Fong Ping's parents were not around. It was not that Zhang Tao and the rest did not give them a place. With Fong Ping's identity and status, it was impossible that he did not give them a place. However, the Fong couple smiled and refused. They said that they wanted to stay and guard their home. They were afraid that Fong Ping would not be able to find his way back. Their daughter was still young. It was fine as long as she left. They did not want to live this kind of wandering life. They refused. At this moment, the great battle was imminent. Old Man Lee's expression was solemn. He bellowed, "Do you know that every quota was exchanged with the lives of your fathers, your family, your brothers, and even your entire family, young and old? The reason why you people can stand here is because someone has borne everything for you. They are bleeding and fighting. You are stalling for time now, refusing to leave. When they are fighting, they still have to worry about you. Live on. This is not a mission. It's a prayer. I beg you, don't let the human civilization be completely destroyed, completely disappear." Old Man Lee bellowed. "Living on is more important than dying. It's also more painful. Although you are still young, you need to bear a greater responsibility. You don't have the strength to fight, so you can only bear more pain. Do you think there is hope if you go in? No, it might be more hopeless. In this narrow space, you can't see the sun, the moon, you can't see anything. You can only wander on alone. Live on. Maybe after the battle, you won't be able to survive at all. It's just a glimmer of hope. You understand?" Old Man Lee said in a low voice, "If we win, we will look for you. If we lose, then there's no need to wait anymore." Sobs were heard everywhere. In the crowd, some of the youth's veins were bulging. They clenched their fists, their eyes red. They were older and knew more. Grandpa Lee, in front, Fang Yuan was sobbing. She did not want to leave. At this moment, the void was torn apart. Fang Ping stepped into Star Town. "Brother," when Fang Yuan saw Fang Ping, she was overjoyed. She said hurriedly, "Brother, I don't want to leave." Fang Ping smiled. He stepped into the air and caught Fang Yuan, who was running toward him. Patting Fang Yuan's head, Fang Ping looked at the crowd and smiled. "It's better to be prepared. Since I started my career, I have never lost a battle. I have never failed. If you trust me, just treat it as a magical journey in space. Take a nap. When you wake up tomorrow, the world will be at peace. If you don't trust me, you're just waiting to die by wandering in the endless space. If you're here, your parents and grandparents won't be at ease. They won't be able to give it their all. They're all worried that you'll be implicated. Leaving is the best consolation for them. Rather than saying this is an escape, it's better to say it's a way to calm people down and comfort your parents." Fang Ping smiled. Do you really think you'll be safe after entering the artifact and wandering in the void? No, it's even more dangerous. However, your families think that there's hope this way. That's why we came up with this plan to comfort them, lest they lose their will to fight and get killed by the enemy. Fong Ping looked at the crowd and smiled again. So, if you don't want your families to die in battle, then go in. Beside him, someone said resentfully, "Go in. I want to go in, but I can't." It was none other than Jiang Chao. Originally, there would definitely be a place for him among this group of people. However, none of the people who left this time were rank 9. Even Fang Yuan was not a rank 9. She had not even condensed the origin. The rank 9 Dao had been locked by the immortal source. If the immortal source could not be destroyed, these people would be found. Fang Ping glanced at him and smiled. "Why don't I help you break your Dao? You won't die. Do you want to go with me?" Jiang Chao said gloomily. "No way. I thought there would be delicious food. In the end, I realized that there are all kinds of things inside. Energy stones, all kinds of pills, all kinds of books, all kinds of mystic techniques, all kinds of weapons. You're kidding me. If it's only for a short period of time, then forget it. If I were to wander for thousands of years, oh my God, you might as well kill me now." Fang Ping could not help but laugh. He ignored him and looked at the others. "All of you heard it. This is a cage that's countless times smaller than the 3 realms. Going in might not be a good thing. Don't feel like you're deserters, because to put it bluntly, all of you are too weak. So weak that I don't even treat you as soldiers." Fang Ping smiled. "All of you are so weak. I'm also very helpless. If all of you had cultivated to rank 9 earlier, it might not be you who entered this time. Originally, it was supposed to be some of your peers and elites. In the end, I realized that many of those elites were in desperate straits. All of you are too weak, too useless. I can only give the places to you." As soon as he said that, even though everyone knew that Fang Ping was comforting them, they still blushed. This was heart-wrenching. How embarrassing. Yes, all of you were too weak. When you cultivated to rank 9, your Dao was locked. Then, you might not be allowed to leave. Previously, among this group of people, there were indeed many older brothers and sisters and even younger brothers and sisters who obtained the places. In the end, many of them broke through to rank 9 and even desperate straits. That was why they were allowed to come. Everyone blushed, momentarily forgetting that they did not want to leave earlier. According to Fang Ping, all of them were too weak. Weak people would be a hindrance if they stayed. "So leave now. All of you go in." Fang Ping laughed. In the crowd, some people looked at each other. Finally, a sigh was heard. Some people began to enter. 1, 2, gradually, most of them had entered it. Fang Yuan grabbed Fang Ping, sobbing. "Brother, I'm very powerful. Although I haven't condensed a Dao, I'm very strong. Even Fatty Jiang can't beat me." On the other side, Jiang Chao's expression darkened. This little girl only knew how to speak the truth. Fang Ping laughed. "I know you're powerful, but are you as powerful as me? I'm already worried about Dad and Mom not leaving. If you don't leave, I'll have one more worry. Dad and Mom are fine. They'll be waiting for me at home. What about you? You're not an obedient girl. If you rush out to look for me, I'm fine, but the enemy discovers you and finds an opportunity. Won't I be in trouble then?" Fang Ping laughed. "Let's go. Take a nap. Brother will come and pick you up in a few days." Fang Yuan cried again. The next moment, a cat came through the void and landed on Fang Ping's shoulder. It swept its tail at Fang Yuan and said happily, "Little chubby face, you lied to the cat that you don't cry. How embarrassing. You're so annoying." Fang Yuan chased its tail away angrily and looked at Fang Ping again. Fang Ping laughed. Go in. Don't make me worry. Right now, you're the strongest among them. If they're in danger, they'll need you to protect them. Fang Ping laughed again. Haven't you always wanted to be the boss? You can be the boss today. You can beat up anyone who doesn't agree. They're no match for you. Now that you don't even have a backer, you can beat them up however you want. Don't be afraid. Fang Yuan smiled through her tears. She could not help but complain. Brother, I'm all grown up. I'm not a kid anymore. Who would bully others? Grown up? Fang Ping mumbled. Had she grown up? She was just a kid. Pinching her slightly thin cheek, Fang Ping smiled and said, Let's go in. Brother, don't worry. I'll come and pick you up in a few days. Fang Ping comforted her. He looked at the cat and said, Big cat, go in and play with her for a while. The cat said happily, Okay, I'll play with her for a while. Fang Ping smacked the cat's head. This cat was getting more and more mischievous. No, this cat did not have one in the first place. Fang Yuan treated the cat as a pet. Big Cat treated Fang Yuan as a pet too. Who was going to play with Fang Yuan for a while? Who knew who would be the one playing later? Fang Ping laughed. He watched as the cat grabbed Fang Yuan's face with its claws and dragged her into the divine artifact. Only then did he look at Old Man Li and said with a smile, Instructor, you've worked hard. How am I working hard? Of course I've worked hard. Fang Ping looked at him, squinting and smiling. At this juncture, powerhouses can't leave. The weak are useless. As for you, you'll have to work harder. There are 3,000 children here. They're too young. Without anyone to comfort and take care of them, can they survive in the endless void? What if they encounter any danger? You're too suitable. Without the restriction of the origin and Tao, you can be a nanny for a while. Not a nanny. It's pretty good. Old Manly's expression changed. Don't you. Fang Ping interrupted him. Can you rival the Celestial Emperor and the rest now? Even if you've broken 9. So what if there's one more or one less? Other powerhouses will be discovered too easily. You won't be able to. Your aura isn't even as powerful as some rank 9s. You don't have a Tao or an origin. You're not even considered a beginner. This is good. I feel that you're about to transcend the 3 realms. Even if I lose, the Celestial Emperor won't be able to find you. That's why I'll only be at ease if you bring them away. Fang Ping sighed. The others are either too weak, or their Tao is restricted, or they're key figures. As for you, your presence isn't strong. If you disappear, so be it. Not many people will care. You've even been a teacher. These children will need your care and education in the future. Fang Ping grinned. I'm also afraid that my round face will be bullied. 3,000 people isn't a small number. What if they're bullied? Teacher, you'll have to bear the burden. I'll leave everything to you. Old Man Li's face turned green. You want me to be a deserter now? No, you understand better than I do. Living is more painful, isn't it? Fang Ping looked at him with a burning gaze. You're old, not a child. I won't use those words to convince you, but you understand that facing a strong enemy head-on is actually easier than your mission. 3,000 people. This is humanity's last hope. Among them are my younger sister and a large number of descendants of powerhouses who fought for humanity. If everyone wants to live a carefree life, this mission won't be easy. For a powerhouse like you to avoid the battle and become a babysitter, I think this mission is more important than you killing an emperor. I don't know if there's any danger in the endless void. I don't know how long this divine artifact can last. Those children don't have the ability to solve these problems. Only you, old man, have the ability to solve these problems. I don't know if you can walk out of the 3 realms. Can you go to another universe? If you encounter a second universe with life, can they survive there? Fong Ping said seriously, "No, only you, old man, can. Teacher, please." Old man Li's expression was ugly. At this juncture, his longevity sword wanted to leave. Fong Ping wanted him to leave, to take care of those children, to protect those children. He knew that what Fong Ping said was partly right, but to let go of his sword, go into the divine artifact, and accompany a group of children, he still could not accept it. Fong Ping, old man Li's voice was low. "Although my ability is not as good as yours, I think I can become stronger. The more I fight, the stronger I get. Protect these children, there's no need for me. Then who should go?" Fong Ping smiled. Now that the immortal origin is broken, there aren't many people who can be controlled. All of them are useful. Moreover, this origin Tao is useful in the three realms. If we go to other universes, will it still be useful? Old man, you're different. You're really taking in all Taos to help yourself. Don't tell me you want me to hand these people over to outsiders. Having said that, Fong Ping said sincerely, "We're enough to kill the enemy. If I don't have this ability now, you'll be a good helper. But now, your strength has broken 9, and you've just broken 9, so you won't be of much help to me. On the other hand, protecting these people is more important. I haven't arranged for anyone to protect them and guide them, all this while hoping that you, old man, can step forward yourself. Now, it seems like I can only do it. Teacher, please." Old man Li's expression was gloomy. After a while, he said in a hoarse voice, "All right, I'll go." As he said that, he looked at Fong Ping, his eyes suddenly turning red. "You be careful. Don't worry." Fong Ping laughed. Looking at old man Li in front of him, who was already shorter than him, he laughed and said, "When have I ever failed? It had never happened before. Have some confidence in me. You're here just in case. I'll look for you guys later." Having said that, Fong Ping exhaled and said, "Teacher, go in." Old man Li did not expect that he would leave at this time. He was a little unwilling and a little aggrieved. However, since Fong Ping had already said it to this point, he could not refuse. Yes, the other powerhouses could not leave. Only he could leave and take care of these people. But he was really too unwilling. Old man Li was still struggling. Fong Ping suddenly kicked his, but with a rumble, the old man was smashed into the door. Fong Ping scolded, "Old man, you're being unreasonable until now. If I tell you to go, then go. You talk too much nonsense. I didn't want to hit you at first, but you forced me. Big cat, come out." Old man Li, who was kicked in, had a bitter expression. He turned his head and gave him a glance, sighing softly. After this goodbye, would they ever meet again? The next moment, a cat dashed out, saying happily, "Liar, I left Cat 4 inside. Next time, Lil Chubby Face can play with Cat 4. Old man, remember to take care of Cat 4. Feed Cat 4 more delicious food." "Brother," the sound of crying could be heard. Fong Ping did not look or listen anymore. He sealed the divine artifact directly. Everyone's silhouettes disappeared. The next moment, many human powerhouses appeared around Fong Ping. These people looked at the sealed divine artifact, each of them silent. Many of them had descendants among them. Li Changsheng followed him in, and they felt much more at ease. However, after this goodbye, would they ever meet again? No one could answer this question. Not even Fong Ping. Fong Ping said no more. A rift void appeared in front of him. After ninth heaven shattered and the three realms merged, it became harder to open the rift void. There seemed to be another universe in this rift. As for Fong Ping, he was not interested in exploring this endless darkness. After tearing the void, Fong Ping placed the divine artifact inside. With a sudden force, the shuttle-like divine artifact disappeared before his eyes. Fong Ping seemed to hear Feng Yuan's cries An old man, Lee's choking voice. He waved his hand slightly, watching the divine artifact disappear. It was quiet all around. Fong Ping closed the void. Everything disappeared completely. Goodbye. I hope we can meet again. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.